And thank you, Jimmy, as we welcome all of you back to Las Vegas and a sunny splash day here. People from all 50 states and some 16 countries are here to enjoy a crowd of about 150,000. And we're in the Hollywood Hotel and Casino. Michael and I, of course, betting legal here. The odds posted as the day started on the drivers. Jimmy Johnson, 48, Jeff Gordon, 24. We want your expertise so we can change the odds based on what you think.
When I got to Vegas, Jimmy Johnson was my favorite, too, but he wrecked his primary car, Chris. We got to move him over a little bit. I think he's about 12-1 now.
12-1, okay.
This is my guy. I think 10-1 Kevin Harvick. I would move that odds down to about maybe 4-1. I like that for Kevin Harvick.
All right, let's take a look. Give us we see some of the names. Carl Edwards there in the 99, Matt Kenseth. Give us a long shot.
This is my long shot. Kurt Busch, he's a former NASCAR champion. He landed with a small team. He's going to lead. He has a chance to lead that team to victory lane. I'm going to leave him at 18-1, and if I were a betting man, I'd bet on him.
All right, so now let's try the one-armed bandit here and go to the slot to check as we put all that information in to see if you cash in who the winner will be.
Look at there.
Kevin Harvick.
My guy.
All right, very good. We'll be checking this out throughout the race. You were once a long shot at Daytona, I remember.
Let's just move on, Chris.
And you did okay. All right, let's head back down trackside and get the command, those words we love to hear every time the drivers are on the track.
Race fans, it's time for the most famous words in motorsports. Here to give the command, please welcome our Grand Marshal, Tim Allen.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Las Vegas Motor Speedway, Kobalt Tools 400. And I'm going to step our tradition a little bit because this is Las Vegas. What goes on here stays here. And I'm going to say, hey, drivers, light these bad boys up.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. actually moves up to the front row with pole sitter Casey Kane because Kyle Busch goes to the back of the pack with Jimmy Johnson. We're getting ready to go racing. Vegas style. The Kobalt Tools 400, a good crowd, good weather, good racing, good fans. We're glad you're with us. Third race of the season, NASCAR on Fox. Michael and I will be watching the race with you from our Hollywood Hotel. Jeff Hammond roaming about with our great team of pit reporters. Let's head up to the play-by-play booth and bring in the guys who call the race every weekend on Fox. Darrell Waltrip, Larry McReynolds, and Mike Joy. And Mike, today the first of those 11 races on a mile-and-a-half track. No doubt critical to get a sense of how the season will play out watching today.
Well, certainly, Chris, if you're going to run for this championship, you've got to be good on this size racetracks. There are 6 of them. They call them cookie cutter tracks, Darrell, but they each have their own different little flavor and personality. What's so tough about this one?
Well, let me explain something to you. A golf course has 18 holes, but they all, every golf course plays differently. A football field, all football fields are the same size. Some got artificial turf, some got grass, and racetracks are the same way. Might be the same size, but the pavement can be a different kind of a mixture that gives it different kind of grip. The banking a little bit different. Some progressive, some just regular banking. It's all, there's a variance to every one of these mile-and-a-half racetracks, gives them their own special personality.
Well, one thing we've learned about this track, Larry, and it goes along with Las Vegas, you can't count your money until the checkered flag falls.
Well, I think a lot has to do with racing around here at over 200 miles per hour, but I go back to this race a year ago. Tony Stewart dominated this race, absolutely in a zip code of his own, and pretty much the race was taken away because of a miscue on pit road. Greg Biffle was second best. They couldn't get fuel in his car, pretty much handed the race to Carl Edwards. The moral of the story, you may be in a position on the racetrack to win it, but it can certainly be taken away by a mistake on pit road.
Yeah, the last 2 years here, the fellow who ended up in victory lane didn't even lead the race until well after halfway. So stick around. This is going to be fun.
I think it will be. It's going to be a fast race, and it's hot out there today. The track's going to be slick. We're going to get a little slideways.
So as the cars roll off pit road, let's have a look at our Geico starting grid for the Kobalt Tools 400. Casey Kane has his third pole here, the most of all drivers. And Kyle Busch, the 2009 winner, who came from the rear, he'll do it again. Kevin Harvick, top 10s at both races this season. And Dale Earnhardt Jr., best average finish here at Las Vegas since he joined Hendrick. Clint Boyer and Jimmy Johnson, 4-time Vegas winner. Johnson goes to the backup car. Tony Stewart won the last 3 races on a mile-and-a-half track. Hasn't won here. He's with Joey Logano. Greg Biffle, 3rd in both races this season, and Martin Truex Jr. Matt Kenseth, two-time winner at Las Vegas, and Kurt Busch. Now let's go to the front row, Darrell, and let's dial one up.
Let's see if we can get Casey Kane. Hey, Casey Kane, it's DW up in the Fox Sports booth. You got a copy there, buddy?
Yeah, I got you, Darrell.
Casey, man, great run on the pole, new track record. You've had fast cars, but you don't have much to show for it. How do you feel about today?
Well, I think the track's going to get pretty slippery. Yesterday it wasn't too bad, but I think it'll get slicker as we go here. So we just have to keep up with that, the adjustments, and stay calm. And we have fast cars, like you said. Our Farmers Insurance Chevy was great on Friday, and hopefully it'll be great again today.
Turn 4 here is a little treacherous, just like it was at Phoenix. Be careful there. Watch what you're doing.
10-4, I will.
That's a little driver advice from the booth.
Yeah, thank you. I need it.
10-4, buddy. Good luck.
All right, thanks.
Today's race is brought to you by Budweiser, the beer that starts with full flavor and ends with a crisp, fast finish. Great times are waiting. Grab some Buds. Well, let's get late breaking stories from down on pit road, beginning with Steve Burns.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. As you mentioned, Kyle Busch qualified on the front row, but a practice crash yesterday has relegated him to a backup car, and he must go to the rear of the field. I asked crew chief Dave Rogers if they would employ any different strategy to get track position. He said if there's an early caution in the leader's pit, they might stay out. But he said Kyle feels very confident about getting to the top 15 and doing so quickly, Matt Yoakum.
Steve Dale Earnhardt Jr. starts today 5th in the championship standings, qualifying 4th. Now, as crew chief Steve Letarte told me, there's going to be a number of challenging factors that they're going to have to try to overcome throughout the day for everyone up and down pit road. Casey Kane mentioned the slick racetrack, but Steve Letarte thinks one of the biggest, with so many good cars sprinkled throughout the field, track position and trying to keep it with good calls on top of the pit box is going to be the key to getting Junior out of the slump and owner Rick Hendrick his 200th NASCAR win. Dick Berggren?
Well, Jimmy Johnson has won more Sprint Cup races here than any other driver in today's field, but as you have heard, crashed in practice, he's in a backup. But they got the backup ready quickly enough that Johnson got lots of practice in it, and he told me moments before climbing in the car, that car is good enough to pick its way through the field so Johnson can win. Chris Devoda.
Engine trouble in yesterday's final practice left Greg Biffle a bit concerned. The culprit, a broken spark plug, but the team was able to fix the issue and not go to a backup engine. Vegas luck, well, they are rolling 7s today. They are in pit stall number 7, and this particular car number, 777s. Could this be the day they cash in? Jeff Hammond?
Well, Krista, I'm up here in the Orleans Suite, and I'm getting ready with a lot of great race fans to get an opportunity to watch some really cool location. But here in a little bit, I'm going to get my hands dirty going back down on the track.
Thanks, Jeff. Have a good time up there as we get ready to race in Las Vegas. Beautiful, beautiful day. We have not seen a cloud all weekend. What a sharp contrast to Daytona. The temperature today should be in the mid-70s. It's definitely shirt sleeves and sunscreen weather. A little breezier than it was Friday and Saturday. Warm and full sunshine. 400 miles is the distance today. That'll encompass 267 laps around this mile-and-a-half super speedway.
You see the 18 and the 48, they're falling to the rear. Of course, they're both in backup cars, so that's why.
They, along with Regan Smith, will drop to the back. That's what happens when adjustments are made or engine change or backup car during the weekend.
Saw that pit road speed of 45 miles per hour. It never fails. A driver gets busted for speeding here. Out there running over 200 miles an hour, got to get down to 45 on pit road.
Kyle Busch won here 2 years ago after qualifying on the pole, but having to start in the back after an engine change. Now, Darrell, when a fast car is coming, do you run them a little harder? Do you give them a little extra room? And if you're Kyle Busch, what do you have to think about trying to get to the front?
Well, if you're a fast car in the back like Kyle is outside pole, you know he's fast. And so when you see him coming early in the race, you're not going to race him. You're going to give him a position. Later in the day, it might be a different story. But early in the race, let that guy go. He's trying to make up a lot of ground.
And then I think also, as you heard in the pit, we'll probably see some strategy by Kyle Busch's team and Jimmy Johnson's team. Maybe 2 tires early in the race.
Casey Kane, the fastest of 15 who broke the prior track record in qualifying. That's 4 years in a row we've had a new track record in qualifying here at Las Vegas. The Farmers Insurance Chevy coming from the pole. Dale Earnhardt Jr., who qualified fourth, moved up to the outside as Kane went to the back. And here we go in Las Vegas.
I love the way the flagman holds them. The green flag's in the air. Boogity, boogity, boogity. Let's go racing, boys.
Harvick tried to force the issue down to the bottom, make it 3 wide, and wisely backed out. Couldn't clear underneath Casey Kane.
Remember, some of the accidents we've seen here have been right out of the pits, right out onto the racetrack first lap. So these guys are a little cautious, I hope.
And now, the driver who unbelievably only led a total of 4 laps last year on all the mile-and-a-half tracks, Dale Earnhardt Jr. has got one in the bank. He's our leader.
I think our fans are letting us know who led that lap right there. But Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the 88, he has been fast all weekend long.
He led 2 laps at Texas. Nearly won at Charlotte. Came within sight of the checkered flag before running out of gas, but only led 2 laps there last May.
But his average finish on mile-and-a-halves is the 5th best at 11.7. So he runs good on these tracks. Hadn't led a lot of laps. You're going to win a lot. You got to lead a lot.
That second place car may look unfamiliar in bright yellow, but that is the Joe Gibbs number 20 Toyota of Joey Logano, who's had a strong weekend.
And he's had a strong season so far. Joey Logano in the 22 top 10 finishes, in the top 10 in points. What a turnaround. I know it's early, but what a turnaround from 2011.
A lap at 2 laps, Kyle Busch has gained 12 spots. He's 31st, Jimmy Johnson 35th, as that's Matt Kenseth in turquoise on his Ford and moving past Jeff Gordon.
That's a good looking race car. That's 17. I love that paint job on that thing.
That's 10th place.
But Jeff Gordon in that 24, they have been searching with this race car all weekend long.
They've been searching, Larry. Did they find the wall?
This turn 4 is unbelievable. It is just so treacherous. He didn't. I think that was a kiss at best.
You might have been able to slide a dollar bill between him and the wall that time.
The thing about turn 4, when you come off turn 4, the track leads you right into that outside wall. The radius of that corner is not symmetrical, so it leads you right into the wall.
That's exactly where Kyle Busch in the 18 got in trouble yesterday in that practice crash.
Casey Kane had a look at Joey Logano going into turn number 1. Could not complete the pass, however. Harvick is settled in 4th, Truex 5th, Kurt Busch in 6th, Allmendinger, Stewart, Biffle, and Kenseth.
We go down into turn 1, and you heard in the pre-race show, Michael was talking about the bumps. The car basically porpoises. It kind of hops through those dips in the racetrack. It's right where the tunnel is. So the tunnel at most racetracks creates a bump or a dip. It upsets the car. It'll shoot it up the track if you don't have the right package under the front end there, shocks and the geometry-wise.
Now these two are running about 2/10 off of Dale Earnhardt Jr., who is extending his lead. Teammates battle. That's Greg Biffle on the outside of Matt Kenseth, and trouble for the 33.
Brendan Gaughan, he has pounded it.
He's been hard into the wall. The third Las Vegas native in the race beside the Busch brothers.
Here, pretty heavy damage on the right side.
Still under green. We still continue.
And Brendan was so excited about this race. Had a great run yesterday. Had a good practice, and just here it goes pretty much away on him here before lap 10.
Yeah.
And trouble for Casey Mears, the Geico Ford, in the pits. Now just ahead of Kyle Busch, this is Brendan Gaughan.
Yeah, and he's down on the bottom. He just watch the car. Washes up a little bit, gets a little bit loose.
Stay down,
slaps
clear.
that wall hard.
He was in 26th place. Probably with an eye to the mirror as Kyle Busch was working his way up through the field. Well, there's the stat on Dale Jr. He's just about doubled his lap leading total on tracks this size for 2011.
And right now he is a little quicker than everyone else by about 2/10. So he's not only going to lead more laps than he led all last year on a mile and a half, he's going to really add to that total.
But Darrell, what I'll be anxious to see
can they put the beginning, the middle, and the end of this race together? They've been good all weekend long. They just got to stay caught up with it.
And that's where Dale Jr.'s got to do his job. He has got to tell Stevie Letarte what that car is doing and what it needs, and stay up on it and don't get behind.
Dale Jr. with a 2-second lead. Kyle Busch now up to 25th. From the back of the pack, Jimmy Johnson has climbed to 28th. Joey Logano still doing a great job of holding Casey Kane back in the 3rd position. Matt?
Mike, just like Dale Earnhardt Jr., which DW mentioned, their goal, put together an entire race for this 20 car Joey Logano. Jason Ratcliffe, his new crew chief, told me they spent about 80% of practice just trying to get this car stable through the bumps, especially the bump there in turn 2. Right now, Joey says the car, the splitter, is hitting the racetrack very hard and tight in the center, but they're pleased where he is. He's got that track position.
You know, I think a lot of drivers anticipated the pace was going to slow down. We saw it in yesterday's race where they made changes and it's had the splitter bottoming out in the early part of a run.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. has led every lap so far.
The Kobalt Tools 400 is sponsored by Kobalt Tools. Kobalt, the next generation of tough tools.
16 laps completed in Las Vegas. Dale Earnhardt Jr. jumped from the outside pole at the start and has led every one of them. Joey Logano continues to hold 2nd. Here comes the new 3rd place car. That's that black Chevrolet of Kevin Harvick. Martin Truex Jr. started 10th. He is up to 4th. And Kurt Busch is the new 5th place car, passing Casey Kane as we came back from break.
I've been watching the 51 car of Kurt Busch. Really looks good, particularly on corner exit. Gets up out of the corner really well.
Ryan Newman and Marcus Ambrose 14th and 15th there. And here's Allmendinger going to work on Kurt Busch to break into the top 5. 2nd place, Harvick makes the pass on Logano.
Just a little update. We saw Casey Mears on pit road before commercial break. They had a loose wheel on his 13 car.
Brendan Gaughan made a stop for crash damage, came back out. Joe Nemechek has gone to the garage. How about Clint Boyer? Started 5th, quickly dropped back to 12th, Steve, but he has settled there, not lost any more ground.
Mike, early in, Clint Boyer described his car as having gotten very loose very quickly.
And Darrell, I just believe that's a product of what Casey Kane told you on the pace laps. This racetrack has lost some grip. It's warmer. We had that 300-mile race yesterday. It's taking grip away.
That's the difference, Larry, and that's why you see these guys, you know, all through practice and yesterday running the bottom right through those bumps on both ends of the track. Now they're trying to find that really, really high groove, looking for some new racetrack where there's not a lot of rubber, where there might be some more grip.
On the bottom, here comes Greg Biffle, the number 16 Ford, coming after Kurt Busch. This is for 6th place. Now this was 1 lap ago.
That right there is just, that's what these guys are all fighting. When you turn the wheels, you see the car, he's trying to turn it. Turns it a little too far, the back slides out. Catch it. You play pitch and catch a lot on this racetrack.
Well, Biffle pitches it into the corner, and he's about to run up on A.J. Allmendinger as Busch tries to stay alongside. Our pole sitter, Casey Kane, has been kind of easing back through the field. Krista currently at 9th place.
Yeah, Mike, you, Larry, and Darrell talking about how he said this track would change. I talked to him this morning. He said it is just so sensitive. We know this track is going to change. On lap 8, he radioed into his crew chief, Kenny Francis, and said, my car is loose into 3. 3 laps later, he said, it is just way too loose everywhere.
And what you have to do once a car is that loose, you have to slow down. That's all you can do. You got to back the corner up. Don't drive in so hard, and you're gingerly getting back in the gas. Can't be aggressive with the car at all, and that's why you lose spots.
Tony Stewart in the 14 moving forward again. He had dropped back to 11th. He is now 9th, and Jeff Gordon gets back up into the top 10. For more on Gordon, here's Steve.
Yeah, he started 16th, Mike. His report to his team, him just a second ago is that his car has gotten tight in the center. Alan Gustafson saying today is going to be about the art of racing, keeping up with the racetrack.
Well, that's what we talked about Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the 88 car. His teammate is making sure that Dale Earnhardt Jr. gives Steve Letarte the right information and they make the right adjustments to keep up with racetracks changes it's going to go through.
Yeah, because if you're good right now, Larry, you know the car's not. Dale Jr. right now his car's probably perfect, but if Stevie Letarte and Dale Jr. don't communicate about what's going on with that race car, they will get behind and somebody else will be up there leading the race.
Dale Jr.'s led every one of the 24 laps so far. It took 21 laps for Kyle Busch to move from the back of the field into the top 20. And now Jimmy Johnson has cracked the top 25, also coming from the back of the field.
Yeah, you can get up to about, I don't know, 15th, 20th, somewhere in there pretty quick. You know, you're a little better than a lot of those guys. But once you get to that point, it's a little tougher.
Dick Berggren.
Well, Jimmy Johnson has said that the car is behaving differently on each of the two ends of the racetrack, which will make it harder to adjust, Mike. But he started way in the back. He's all the way up to the 24th spot. And I was impressed at how confident both he and his crew chief, Chad Knaus, were that this car is good enough to go to the front and win the race from the back.
Well, the good thing about this first run, Darrell, is we've run far enough that you kind of know what your car's got. You can give that feedback to your team and to your crew chief, and they can be thinking about what adjustments they need to be made.
Here's the difference. On the third lap of the race, Dale Jr. ran a 29.51. Right now, his last time by, a 30.93.
Kevin Harvick beginning to eat into that lead, but so far, Dale Earnhardt Jr. has led every lap in Las Vegas.
You're watching NASCAR on Fox.
The Kobalt Tools 400 is sponsored by Sprint, proud sponsor of the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. By Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. By Pizza Hut, order the new $10 dinner box today. And by Dodge, visit your local Dodge dealer today.
31 laps complete. Let's take an inside look at what's happening in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, brought to you by Sprint. You'll see lap leaders and biggest mover in this race and get unlimited access to the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series with live in-car audio and real-time stats only on the Sprint network. Learn more at sprint.com/speed. Dale Jr.'s lead has been chopped in half as Kyle Busch works his way through the field in 20th position right now. Harvick 1.7 back of Dale Earnhardt Jr. and for third, Martin Truex Jr. moving past Joey Logano.
That little 56 car, boy, the last few races of last year and starting of this year, it's been a good little ride.
Yeah, Darrell, he finished 7th at Phoenix. The last 7 races, 5 the end of last year and 2 starting in 2012, 5 top 10 finishes for Martin Truex Jr.
Doing a good job, he and the whole team.
At the other end of the pack, Joe Nemechek back on track after losing 13 laps, and Brendan Gaughan lost 9 laps on pit road with the hood up. He is back in the race.
One of the things that hurt Junior a little bit is he ran up on Dave Blaney, and Blaney gave him a hard time in the 36 car there. Couldn't get by him for several laps. Really slowed Junior's progress down. Let Harvick back there in the 29 come charging up there, close the gap a little bit.
Kevin Harvick is now within 1.6 seconds of the leader.
Mike, we've heard DW say so many times, qualifying sets the tone for the weekend, and that's what Kevin Harvick told me. Believe it or not, starting third was his best qualifying effort, not due to a rainout set by points since June of 2008. He's making the most of it. Says he needs a little bit more front grip when they make their first pit stop and a little bit rear grip, but he's very pleased. Look for an air pressure and a significant wedge adjustment, but keep an eye on that 29. He's reeling in the 88.
He really is, man. He really is. And I like that Shane Wilson, his crew chief. I think that's going to be a real winning combination for Kevin Harvick.
Yeah, Kevin's finished third in the championship points the last 2 years. They decided they wanted to make that change, and they actually made a change with the crew chief and most of the key members of that race team.
A.J. Allmendinger hunting Matt Kenseth and Greg Biffle as they work their way around the 1.5 mile Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Allmendinger 6th, Brad Keselowski in 12th. Are the Dodge Chargers in the race? Robbie Gordon failed to qualify.
You know, little old A.J. Allmendinger in that 22 car, he's had 2 good runs the first 2 races of 2012. Just wrong place, wrong time at Daytona and Phoenix.
I think he'll settle in nicely there in over the long haul, and he will live up to those expectations that people. That one word that I kept hearing every time you'd hear AJ, potential. He has a lot of potential. I think he's in a spot where he'll be able to prove that.
37 laps complete. Everybody wondering when pit stops will begin. Perhaps soon, as Dale Earnhardt Jr. leads Kevin Harvick now by just 1.3 seconds.
The Kobalt Tools 400 is sponsored by Budweiser. Great times are waiting. Grab some Buds.
42 laps in, Bobby Labonte's made a pit stop. Dave Blaney, Landon Castle, Travis Kvapil. Now on Pablo Montoya, Regan Smith, and here's the race leader. Dale Earnhardt Jr. surrenders the lead for the first time today to come down pit road, along with David Rudiman. Stremmy's been in, and caution is out. Caution is waving. This may change things drastically.
Well, I think where the leader's at right now, he's going to go into turn 3. I think they're going to go ahead and complete this pit stop. And where they're pitting, Mike, right before the start-finish line, all they have to do is beat that leader right there. I think he's going to be okay.
So rookie Timmy Hill hitting the wall coming off turn number 2. Stremme had also pitted, and now Kevin Harvick crosses the line under caution. So the cars that stopped under green will be able to cycle through and lead the field to the green when we get a restart.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. had the perfect pit box because it's right there before the start-finish line, and if you're, as long as you beat that leader to the start-finish line, if you're pitting before it or you're coming down pit road before it, you're okay.
Now in that exchange, we're told that Kurt Busch did lose 1 lap to the leader.
See, there's his stall right there.
Right at start finish. So it's the first caution of the day, and it comes out working lap 45. Have a look under the Aaron sign, or where Timmy Hill gets up and in the wall. Yeah, way up around the rim of the racetrack and rides it pretty well. The young 19-year-old starting his first Sprint Cup race today.
Yeah, he didn't make the race last week at Phoenix. Came here, made the race. Good little driver, good little kid. He's a 2009 Allison Legacy Car champion, and he's also a 2-time World Karting Association champion.
So NASCAR officials confirming Dale Earnhardt Jr. did stay on the lead lap. However, Kurt Busch was trapped 1 lap down. Everybody else comes to pit road. Dick?
On that, Kenseth started in the 11th position. Mike, he worked his way up to 4th spot. Turned 40 yesterday. Car is good. No problems at all with it. Matt?
Kevin Harvick needing more grip in the front and back of the race car. Chassis adjustment half completed on the 29. He was going to stay out a lap after the 88 pitted and then hit pit road.
Martin Truex says his car is pretty good. I just needed to take off a bit more grip. Meanwhile, Greg Biffle says, free it up. I want to let these horses run. Steve?
Jeff Gordon says it is slick out here. They made a track bar adjustment. They raised it. And according to Alan Gustafson, they made a bunch of air pressure adjustments on Jeff Gordon's car.
Wondered if Kyle Busch might roll the dice. He did not. They took 4 tires. Trouble for A.J. Allmendinger. As he brought his Dodge into the pits, he overshot the line in his pit. They had to back him up before they could service that car. And Jamie McMurray still on pit road, receiving service under the caution flag. We are not yet under green, but cars have moved around the pace car to come around and pick up the tail end of the field because Dale Earnhardt Jr. will once again be the leader, and a penalty on Brad Keselowski, too fast exiting the pits. He will restart tail end of the field. Larry, let's have a look at, showing pit road, how Dale Earnhardt Jr. is on the lead lap, but Kurt Busch lost a lap.
All right, Kurt Busch is pitting right here. Dale Earnhardt Jr. is pitting right here. When they were on pit road, Kevin Harvick was the leader. When the caution comes out, all you have to do is either beat the leader at this line, which is the start-finish line going across pit road, which Dale Earnhardt Jr. did, or the pit out line, which is right there, which Kurt Busch did not.
And because Kurt Busch was down toward turn 1 in his pit stall when the caution came out, he had to go to the pit exit line to beat the leader and wasn't able to.
Well, and remember, Junior came in as the leader, so he had a gap between himself and the 29 car that Kurt Busch didn't have.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with where you're pitting. It's just where you're at on pit road versus the leader.
27 cars on the lead lap. David Reagan gets the free pass. Here's our KFC fresh start. KFC come in today and taste why fresh is better.
Now this is a critical time of the race. We've had a long green here. Teams have had a chance to analyze and evaluate what they have. Who makes the right adjustments at that pit stop, that first one?
Harvick Earnhardt for the lead, turn 3.
Junior's got that high line, and it really gives him a lot of momentum off the corner, and he can really open up a gap between he and Kevin Harvick in the 29.
And look who's in the top 10, Kyle Busch. Quick work by his pit crew, and he is up in the top 10 after starting this race out back. And look at Junior beginning to pull away once again.
Yeah, Kevin's on the bottom. Junior in the 88 is up at top, and that high line seems to be the way to go right now.
Matt Kenseth, best of the Fords right now, in third with his teammate Greg Biffle fourth.
You know another driver, though, that's making some noise? Our champion, Tony Stewart, at 14. He's battling Greg Biffle in the 16 for fourth. Remember, dominated this race 1 year ago, had the pit road miscue late in the race, finished second.
You know, we talked in the pre-race show about Tony not winning here and some of the other mile and a halves, Kentucky. Based on his performance at the end of last year, I'd say he's going to change that this year and maybe today.
He said after the checkered flag fell here last March, somebody's going to have to explain to me why we didn't win this thing.
He was not a happy camper. And I think that was an indication of things to come between he and Darian Grubb. They had some miscommunications, some disagreements all through the year until they got to the chase.
Interesting to note, the 3 tracks he's not won on are tracks we only go to once a year.
Well, and we've only run one race at Kentucky. That's the race that Kyle Busch won last year.
Matt?
Mike, if you're a Tony Stewart fan, you know that he loves it when the track gets hot and slick, and the comments back to his team is the track is starting to really get slick. The biggest issue he had in the first segment, side bite. But as the laps wore on, it came to him more and more. They made a slight air pressure change. He's pleased with the 14 machine.
What he's talking about side bite is when the car gets in the corner and it rolls. It rolls over. It'll either roll over and stick, or it'll roll over and slide. And if you got good side bite, you're going to be able to run through the corner a lot harder than if you're sliding up the hill.
Jimmy Johnson about to break into the top dozen. Watching from the 5-hour energy cam on Clint Boyer's car as Johnson makes the pass for 12th.
Remember, that's a driver that started at the tail end of the field in a backup car because of a crash yesterday.
Dale Jr. had a 1-second lead over Kevin Harvick prior to slowing for pit road, and he's back up to 1.2 seconds up on Harv right now.
Yeah, right now Dale Jr. again is just doing what he did in that first go round. He's about 1/10 to 2/10 quicker than Kevin Harvick, but the guy that's matching his lap times pretty close is the 14 car, Tony Stewart. They're running pretty similar times.
Larry, on this first pit stop, we didn't see any or much gambling on 2 tires for track position.
No, when you run that far, Mike, because as you saw, we were about to cycle into green flag pit stops. You needed a full tank of Sunoco race fuel, so you had to take 4 tires. 2 tires would have been a disaster right there.
In all of 2011, Dale Earnhardt Jr. led 52 laps the whole year. He's led more than that today.
Yeah, car is awesome. Now he's dropped down to the bottom, and that's something I really like to see. And he's experimenting, and that's smart. That's using your head. He ran the high line, got that gap. Now he's going to run the bottom and see, what if I had to go down here and make a pass? Can I do it?
That cost him a little. He was 1.6 ahead of Harvick beginning that lap. Now it's down right about to 1.5 as Kyle Busch keeps marching toward the front. He's 5 seconds off the lead now in 9th place.
Now, Kyle Busch has won this race from the rear. Back in 2009, he had to go to the rear because of an engine change after sitting on the pole. Looks like he's trying to repeat that feat.
Well, if he's coming to the front, he's going to have company because Jimmy Johnson comes into the picture. Against the number 5 is Hendrick teammate Casey Kane.
Yeah, I think what's happening.
Newman.
I think what's happening with the 29 to 14, they're racing each other. And right now, Harvick's playing defense. He's trying to keep the 14 behind him. It's costing him time to the leader. But as soon as Tony gets by, I think he's going to have a little something for Dale Jr. And there he makes the pass. And I think he'll be able to go. Here we come, baby.
You know Tony Stewart's got a good car when he's doing his own cheerleading on the radio. 59 laps complete in Las Vegas in the Kobalt Tools 400. 64 laps complete in Las Vegas. Tony Stewart losing ground here. He's dropped back into the 5th position behind Greg Biffle, and he's got a piece of debris there on the grill.
Yeah, well, he's trying to get up. Every time somebody goes by, he can't get up close enough to them as they go by or to stay with them to get that sucked off of there.
Just happened.
It's gone. Good.
Matt Kenseth passed him. He couldn't hang with Kenseth, but he was able to get close enough to Biffle to blow that piece of debris off the grill. And now he can get cooled down and hopefully go back to the front. Here's a look. Thanks to Greg Biffle's onboard camera.
Got it.
Goes.
When you get that close, the pressure on the nose changes. It almost starts pulling away rather than pushing against the nose.
He couldn't stay with Matt Kenseth, and neither could Kevin Harvick. Kenseth has gone by into 2nd place. A little bit of wind helping to move the debris off Tony's grill. Not so helpful to the Stewart-Haas team at the other end of the speedway. Their spotter Bob Jeffries. Whoops. Gone.
Man, that was my favorite hat.
Let's check in with Jeff Hammond.
Mike, I'm down here in turn 4 right off the exit of it. A lot of cars have started to get free and running up the racetrack. One of the things I think is kind of factored in today, different than earlier in the week, is the wind. It's blowing directly across turn 4. So when this track starts freezing up, a little extra wind, all of a sudden it's really moving these cars around.
And these cars are big. These cars are a lot bigger than they look like they're on TV, and the sides are really huge and flat. That's why they get so much side force. And when the wind starts blowing, it does move the car around.
Wind speed up to 15 miles an hour now. That's the most it's been this weekend. Timmy Hill in the garage. J.J. Yaley, smoke from his car. He went to the garage a few laps ago. Those are the only 2 cars out of the race as Dale Earnhardt Jr. continues to lead here in Las Vegas. Enter now for a chance to win the Camaro Synergy and a Talladega Race Weekend package and get to meet Tony Stewart. Visit CamaroSynergy.com to enter. Matt Kenseth trying to eat into Junior's lead. 1.8 seconds. There's Kenseth. There's Harvick.
Kenseth's quicker by a couple of tenths at this point in the run, and he is definitely closing down.
You know, one thing I noticed about Dale Earnhardt Jr. in 88, Darrell, there's only about 1 groove left at the top of the racetrack that they haven't been running on. He has moved his race car all the way to the top of that black, just trying to find more grip.
But that's when he's at his best. When he can high ride, get up there and rim ride. I think that's really where he has the most comfort in a race car.
There's the gap, 1st to 2nd. 1.3 seconds. Veteran Jimmy Fennig up on the pit box for Kenseth. Harvick 2.5 back. Biffle 3.5 out of the lead, and Tony Stewart now 4.6 back.
There have been drivers in our sport through the years that when the track greases up and they can start running up next to the wall, run the high groove. Harry Gant comes to mind, Richard Petty, my brother. A lot of guys really like to get up next to that wall. They could really get a good feel.
Now you see the dynamic interval down at the lower left there. And at turns 1 and 2, Kenseth closes the gap. Gets a little closer here entering turn 3. A little bit of traffic may have affected that last time by as Kenseth lost some ground in 3 and 4. But now he has Dale Jr. in his sights. 72 laps complete in the Kobalt Tools 400. Dale Earnhardt Jr. after pit stops out in front once again.
The Kobalt Tools 400 is sponsored by Lowe's. Lowe's, never stop improving.
caution out for the second time at lap 72. The number 10 of David Rudiman having trouble getting onto pit road. The track opened for pit stops, and here's a look at the leaders.
It had been about 25 laps since we had our last caution. Most of the drivers elected to go with 2 tires. You see Matt Kenseth in the 17. They went with left side tires, something we saw at Phoenix a lot last week.
Yeah, I just told you. This isn't Phoenix, so I'm not sure about that one. We'll have to see how it works out.
Lower left, you see Harvick winning the race off pit road from Matt Kenseth. One driver stayed on track. David Reagan did not pit, so Reagan is the race leader. A lot of 2-tire changes most of the way down pit road under the second caution of the day. Let's get down to the Hollywood Hotel.
Thanks, Mike. With Michael Waltrip, Chris Myers. Hope you're enjoying NASCAR on Fox from Las Vegas. In time for an AT&T race break brought to you by the nation's largest 4G network. Rethink possible. Dale Earnhardt Jr. is good news. He's already led more laps today, 70 plus, than all of last year. He led 50 plus through 36 races. That's a good sign. And of course, Dale Earnhardt Jr. once led 130 laps to start a race. That was in Bristol back in 2002. We know the fact that he hasn't won in 3 years. What do you take away from how he's running so far?
Well, I like his car while he's out front, but now he's going to be back in traffic, Chris. There's a couple of guys that had to start in the back and backup cars, Jimmy Johnson and Kyle Busch. They've been able to march through traffic and make their way inside the top 10. They know what kind of car they have to race with. They're all over the place. Dale Jr.'s been out front setting sail. Now he's going to be stuck in traffic. It'll be interesting to see what kind of car he has in that situation.
Jimmy Johnson has made up 33 spots. It's been 20 plus for Kyle Busch. It seems like they're comfortable. They've won before coming from back of the pack. In fact, 2009 when Kyle Busch started on the pole, had to go to a backup car, was able to come through.
And it's been a really great opening laps of this race for these guys. They've been able to put their car in a lot of different situations and pass people, pass. You get out front and you lead the race, you get a little bit complacent and you're like, this car is good. Put it in traffic, maybe it isn't so good.
The quarter mark of the season, just going past 100 miles in this 400-mile race, and this has been an AT&T race break. Mike, no driver leading the first lap has ever won the Las Vegas race in 14 previous tries.
Wow. Dale Earnhardt Jr. was the first car to take 4 tires, and he will restart 16th. David Reagan has given up the lead and made his pit stop. Our Aaron's lucky dog is Kurt Busch. You don't need credit. All you need is Aaron's. Busch gets the free pass on this restart.
Remember how Kurt got a lap down? He was running up there in the top 10, and he was trapped on pit road when that first caution came out.
Great break for him because he's got a good race car. You know, Kurt's trying so hard, Mike. I mean, he wants to prove not only is he a great driver, he wants to be a leader. That team they need leadership, and he's really trying to step up and lead those guys, and he's doing a really good job.
27 cars on the lead lap as we get set for the restart. Kevin Harvick outside Matt Kenseth on the front row. Let's crank it up. Matt Kenseth in command as we complete 80 laps. Kevin Harvick second, Jimmy Johnson a fast closing third, Tony Stewart, Greg Biffle, then Martin Truex, Ryan Newman, and Carl Edwards. Whole different cast of characters at the front.
Well, it's track position. Dale Jr. had the fastest car, and he still got a fast race car, but he took 4 tires. He's back in traffic. He just can't pass these guys just as easy as it was when he was running up front all by himself.
Well, watch him from our aerial coverage as Dale Jr. Goes 3 wide here against Menard on the inside and Allmendinger on the outside. Nobody's giving him a whole lot of room.
But he's being real aggressive. You watch him get down in the middle of this corner. He's got AJ on the outside in the 22, and there's Menard in the middle. But watch Jr. He says, I got to get out of here.
And this is the first time that Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the 88 car has been in traffic today. He has led almost every single lap.
He sits in 16th place. Here's your top trio. And Jimmy Johnson is hunting down Matt Kenseth, who won the pole here last year. But Kenseth only led 3 laps in the race.
From the back to the front. You gotta like that, man. I mean, it's good stuff.
For the lead.
And Darrell, he's done it and working on doing it in 83 laps with only 2 cautions and pretty much had to change 4 tires that first time.
You know what, Larry? But what I love, that they wrecked that car in practice yesterday. In 28 minutes, they had this car, this backup car, on the racetrack. They got laps in that car, and they knew what they had. That thing looked better than his primary car to me.
You can see right there Jimmy Johnson in the 48 right around the bottom of the racetrack through 1 and 2.
Come on, man, you'll get it.
I believe we learned yesterday that car had a runner-up finish at Dover, had a couple of top 5s. It was definitely a very proven piece that they rolled off the truck as a backup, and they needed it because on the very first lap of practice, Johnson got up high. The Nationwide cars have been qualifying down low. Track was a little dirty, and he got in the fence. Wow, for the lead and for third.
I would take the 48's worst race car any day for a backup car. Any car they have, I'd like to have.
Yeah, the caliber of these drivers' backup cars today, I promise you, their backup car is just as good as their primary car.
That's where, Larry, that's where shop preparation, getting these things done at the shop so you get to the track. If you have a problem, you can overcome it.
4th place, Greg Biffle, Kevin Harvick go at it. A lot of battling up here within the top 5, which is all kind of accordioning together. Stewart is the man in the rocking chair. He's in 3rd place all by himself. 1st and 2nd a car length apart. 4th and 5th, and now you see Biffle from Harvick trying to chase Stewart down. So what happened to Dale Jr., who led the early part of this race and is now 16th?
Down there that can help you out as far as scanning everything else teams or things more consistently with what other people do. I feel like we could do better there.
Letarte expected a few cars to take 2 tires, but not as many. Now Junior in the backs, running in 16th. The car tight on that previous run. DW, how much tighter now back in dirty air is that car going to be?
Well, you just lose all that downforce on the nose, and where the car had nice down pressure, downforce on the nose, it would cut through the corner. Now you're back there with lift. You had downforce before. Now the air off the car in front of you is causing a little bit of lift, and the car just not going to turn as good.
Casey Kane goes by Jr. 2 laps ago. Dale Jr. had a close moment here with Denny Hamlin.
You could see how much faster he was than Denny Hamlin right there. Just drove into the back of Denny. Just about turned Denny Hamlin in the 11 sideways. But that's how much quicker Dale Earnhardt Jr. got off turn 4 than Denny Hamlin.
And remember, the reason Junior is back there is they took 4 tires on the pit stop. The 15 cars that restarted in front of him only took 2.
Okay, well, let's think about it this way. Say we go green. Next time in, Dale Jr. could get away with 2 tires. Under green, the other guys may have to take 4.
But I'm a lot like Matt Yoakum reported. I never expected 15 drivers after 25 laps on your tires to change just 2 right side tires.
And how about the guy leading? 2 left side tires.
2 left side tires.
I mean, when did that come about?
Kyle Busch makes the pass on his Joe Gibbs Toyota teammate Joey Logano, and that'll move Kyle up to 11th. Jimmy Johnson still hunting the lead on Matt Kenseth, but you get Kenseth nailed down in that high groove, and he's a really strong 1.5 mile racer.
Kenseth's got a lot of confidence right now, boys. Winning that Daytona 500. Didn't run all that great last week, but didn't run bad.
In Matt's two wins here, Darrell, he really dominated. In 2003, he led 88 laps. In 2004, 123. Jimmy Johnson does not give up. He keeps going to the bottom, keeps trying to get that lead. Why, Darrell, is it so important for him to get that car out front?
The number one. That would be 1 point. And that's important when you're back there in, what is he, 37th or wherever he is?
25-point penalty to Johnson at Daytona. His crew chief Chad Knaus and car chief Ron Malik will have their appeal heard by NASCAR this Tuesday as they attempt to overturn a 6-race suspension, $100,000 and 25-point fine for a car that came to inspection at Daytona outside of what NASCAR considered proper specification for the body.
Came to the track.
Yes.
Never quite made it through inspection, the first.
And these two drivers, they're going at each other like you see them battling for the lead, and they still are the quickest two drivers on the racetrack right now.
So Jimmy Johnson has come from the back to the front. Casey Kane sat on the pole. Earnhardt Jr. led a lot. And the fourth Hendrick car, Jeff Gordon right now, is mired back in 24th after he took 4 tires on the last stop.
I mean, this is pathetic, man. I just can't even go into the corner.
And the most recent thing Jeff Gordon has told Alan Gustafson, he said, with all those air pressure adjustments that you made, you have unhooked the front of the race car from the racetrack. Alan Gustafson acknowledged it, said there's not a whole lot we can do until the next pit stop.
And Steve, Jeff Gordon was moving forward until that last pit stop, but I think he's suffering also a little of the same thing that his teammate Dale Earnhardt Jr. suffering from, 4 tires and stuck back in traffic.
These early pit stops, those first couple of stops, somebody's going to hit it. Matt Kenseth. Somebody's going to miss it. Jeff Gordon.
Gordon was 8th prior to pit stops, but because of the 4-tire change, he restarted 18th and he has fallen to 24th. Ford Chevy battle for the front spot. Who's going to prevail, Matt Kenseth or Jimmy Johnson?
The Kobalt Tools 400 is sponsored by KFC. Come in today and taste why fresh is better. By AT&T, the nation's largest 4G network. AT&T, rethink possible. And by Ford, proud sponsor of NASCAR.
New leader at 101 laps in the Kobalt Tools 400. Jimmy Johnson, winner of 4 of the last 7 Las Vegas races. From worst to first. Making a pass on Matt Kenseth.
Never did see the worst part.
He started on bad.
No, I agree. But yeah. He could start a lap down. He'd get the lucky dog. He'd be back up there.
Now, that great battle side by side for first and second. Who had the best view of it and enjoyed it the most? Well, listen to this.
How much these last 5 laps pay anyway? Lap 267, they give you a big trophy. I thought so, but it looks like it must pay an awful lot right now.
He was talking about because Jimmy and Matt were just racing each other so hard, but I think Tony's probably not pushing it all that hard right now. I think he's driving in reserve right now.
Well, I know who looks like he's still pushing it hard. That's Jimmy Johnson in the 48, because in just those few laps, he has pulled out to almost a second lead over Matt Kenseth in the 17, about 2/10 of a lap quicker.
Now, we said the first 14 cars on the restart took 2 tires. Casey Kane took 4. He's running in 9th place. Kane is the highest placed car of those who took on 4 tires at the last stop, and right behind him comes Carl Edwards. Dick?
Well, Carl Edwards has got a bunch of problems going on right now, Mike. One of them is that he has got a vibration, a possible loose wheel. The other is that the car is wickedly loose. And he has told crew chief Bob Osborne he wants to pit as soon as they reasonably and possibly can.
Well, Dick, I'm seeing that pit window open for green flag pit stops probably in about 10 to 12 laps.
And that loose wheel and wicked loose, those two looses are probably telling you something wrong with that race car.
Let's have a look at today's Ford F-150 EcoBoost track facts. Ford has 7 Cup wins at Las Vegas, more than any other manufacturer, and 16 wins in NASCAR's 3 National Series here. Carl Edwards won this race a year ago.
I guess that would be my cause and effect. The loose wheel is causing the effect, and that's the car to be loose.
And Carl Edwards in qualifying on Friday, he was real loose. Qualified back in the 21st position, finally cracked the top 10 by virtue of changing 2 tires on that last caution.
By the way, those 16 Ford wins, that includes yesterday. Ricky Stenhouse won the Saturday race here in Las Vegas. Lowe's Racing for Relief program will match today's race earnings of the number 48 team with a donation to the American Red Cross National Disaster Relief Fund. Jimmy Johnson and coroner Rick Hendrick have each pledged $48,000 to that fund. Racing for Relief, and you too can donate to the American Red Cross and help the victims of the various natural disasters that have plagued our country recently. Jimmy in front by 3 seconds right now.
Yeah, I got some friends up in Kentucky that are hosting a big benefit up there for disaster relief.
Matt Kenseth currently second after starting 11th. He is 3 seconds back. And Tony Stewart 3.6 out of first.
You know, the thing about Matt Kenseth, remember, changed left side tires only on that last caution. His right side tires right now have a ton of laps.
Greg Biffle in fourth, 5 seconds back, Krista.
Well, Greg Biffle's car has been mostly tight throughout the race. They made a track bar adjustment on the last stop. A few laps ago, Greg Biffle said, I like that adjustment. Let's do a little bit more of that. But that was track bar. On this stop, they're anticipating a wedge adjustment to free things up.
Kevin Harvick running fifth, 6.4 seconds off the lead. Harvick started third, ran up front early.
He's in pretty good shape right now. He's running in top 5. Car's still running pretty good lap times. I think he's fine.
Working past Dave Blaney there and Ken Schrader. And Ryan Newman debuting the Quicken Loan Chevy in 6th place. He started 14th. He's about 9 seconds out of first.
Yeah, he's just been chipping away at it the entire race. Cracked the top 10 and sitting here now trying to get up to the top 5 before these green flag stops. It'll be happening here shortly.
And Larry, you know, the 14 is running great and has, and Newman has struggled some, but today they both look like they're running equally as well.
Here's the battle for 7th. Martin Truex Jr.'s Toyota spent a lot of time in the top 5 today. And Casey Kane coming back toward the front. Our pole sitter is the first car in the race that took on 4 tires on the last pit stop. Now right behind them, Jamie McMurray in the number 1 Chevrolet had some trouble early on, and here's Jeff Gordon to pit road unexpectedly. Steve.
Well, Mike, it's pretty much about when they wanted to pit in their window. And again, remember, they made a lot of air pressure adjustments on the last stop. They will reverse those adjustments as they continue to chase this racetrack and 4 tires.
He was very unhappy with the handling of his car, Larry, so it looks like a little bit of short pitting to correct that.
Well, yeah, plus you're going to get the benefit of those 4 fresh tires. But yeah, once you get to where you're close on your fuel window and your car is driving bad, great time to come to pit road. But now this may be the first full cycle of green flag pit stops. Brad Keselowski had some issues earlier speeding on pit road. It's very much can happen here under green flag stops.
Just refer back to our opening there, double trouble. This is the hardest pit road to get on and not speed or get it run over that cone down there.
Looking over tires there. Well, last week's winner, our point leader, Denny Hamlin, Steve, he's in danger of going a lap down.
Yeah, he's been struggling, Mike. On that last pit stop, they took right side tires only, and the condition he's fighting is tight. He just can't get that car freed up. He can't turn it.
Thanks, Steve. Joey Logano looked like he was going to try to make a pit road entry, Darrell, and then aborted.
I just can't express enough how hard it is to get on pit road here.
You and your brother talked about that in double trouble in the pre-race.
Exactly.
So Jeff Gordon was the first to ring the bell. Here comes Greg Biffle and David Stremme joining Brendan Gaughan on pit road. Krista?
It was a 2-tire stop for Greg Biffle the last time, so it will be 4 tires. And as we said, anticipate a wedge adjustment as well. He needs his race car just a little bit tighter. Matt?
And Joey Logano making his way to his pit box. Miscue on entry into pit road. Logano's car tight over that run and gotten tighter. They just moved their issue from one section of the corner to the other. Meanwhile, Harvick pulls to a stop. The Bud crew goes to work. Billy O'Day, the spotter, noted the temperature has come down a little bit, making that race car even tighter. Wedge adjustment for Harvick. Steve?
Matt, on Kyle Busch's last pit stop, they took 4 tires. He lost track position, but he said it helped the overall grip to the car. Now he says his car is lateral loose. Krista.
It's all race long. I'm talking about Casey Kane. A lot of adjustments throughout this race. More adjustments on this stop as well. Another 4-tire change for Casey Kane.
And a tough stop for Brad Keselowski. He had to wait for Bobby Labonte to exit his pit before Keselowski could enter his. Matt?
Mike Dale Earnhardt Jr. just couldn't make much gain in the back when he restarted 16th with those 4 tires. Said the car was just too tight, making a chassis adjustment, and he's away. But good knowledge learned there, Dick.
Is on pit road right now. Remember, took just left sides last time. This time it's 4 minor adjustments, Matt.
And Tony Stewart said his car just way too tight on that run on those 2 tires. He needed a little bit of help on exit to get a little more grip. Dick.
And Jimmy Johnson now on pit road. He did not get to pit on the lap he wanted to pit, so this is a bit later of a stop, but there's nobody behind him, so he got easy in, nobody in front of him. He'll have easy out. He has motored from the back to the front on driving and car, not treachery.
Looked like A.J. Allmendinger was going to assume the lead this time around, but now he makes his stop. He will be the last of the cars on the lead lap to pit in this cycle.
Talked about how tough it is to get on the pit road. We documented Joey Logano missing pit road. We had 3 or 4 drivers, including Eric Almirola in the 43, too fast entering. The entrance to pit road is almost right there, dead in the middle of turn 4.
Yeah, you're all the way off the corner, and you're looking in your mirror because you're right in the groove, right on the bottom of the track where a lot of guys run. So you got your hands full, trying to carry speed, trying to get on pit road, and trying to keep them getting run over. And then when you get on pit road, sometimes
there's trouble for Kurt Busch as they try to change rights. And the air hose hung on the back end. The air gun needs replacing.
Oh. Look at the hose. It's all up under the car.
Oh boy, locking them up to come to pit.
Caution's
Travis
out.
Kvapil, and caution is out. That is not locking up the brake. That's big.
I think we just had completed the cycle of green flag pit stops.
Correct, Larry. Everybody on the lead lap had already been to pit road as the caution waves at lap 127. So Kvapil coasts into the garage where he will join Josh Wise, Joe Nemechek, Timmy Hill, and J.J. Yeley. Something will boom on the 93.
Darrell, this old place, she's hard on engines. You choke the guts out of her. You're never off the throttle much.
9,500 RPM.
The Kobalt Tools 400 is sponsored by Toyota. By McDonald's, I'm loving it. And by Coca-Cola. It's time to refuel Coca-Cola. Open happiness.
128 laps complete in Las Vegas. Look at the right side of Kyle Busch's car. When the 93 of Travis Kvapil had something let go under hood, watch the car on the outside behind him. That's Kyle Busch. Menard just misses the wall. Busch didn't fare so well.
Gotten a little bit of the oil. See it on his windshield.
Keep coming here. See him. Stay high. Stay high. He's going to get on the line. Keep coming. Still green. Clear.
Caution out. Track cleanup underway. You're watching NASCAR on Fox. 130 laps complete in Las Vegas. Jimmie Johnson leading Tony Stewart and Matt Kenseth under caution. Time for our AT&T mid-race report. Let's begin with Chris Myers.
Thanks, Mike. 6 leaders, 9 different lead changes so far here in Las Vegas. And even though Dale Earnhardt Jr. has led the most laps, Jimmie Johnson the story. The 48 car starting 40th all the way to first. He's found his groove, a 4-time winner here in a backup car after a crash in practice, in control at this point. Let's see what Darrell Waltrip thinks.
I tell you, I still like my man Kasey Kahne. He started on the pole. He has 12 wins from the pole. Think he's pacing himself. He's coming back. Kasey Kahne.
DW, Kevin Harvick is being all Kevin Harvicky. He's right there in the top 5. He's right where he wants to be. His car's fast. I believe the closer will tune that thing up and go get him at the end.
Michael, based on Dale Earnhardt Jr., who led the first 70 laps of this race, as we get to the closing laps, you can't make a change that gets your driver back in traffic.
It took just 99 laps for Jimmie Johnson to go from the absolute back of the pack to the lead, and once he got that lead, he took off. Chad Knaus gathered the crew and gave them what they needed to hear. Let's go win this race. Mike?
Don't count the money too soon. In nearly half the Vegas Cup races, the eventual winner didn't lead a single lap until well after halfway, including the last 2 years in a row, Chris.
Yeah, Mike, in the last 7 Las Vegas races, the halfway leader failed to finish in victory lane. Tony Stewart running right behind Jimmie Johnson. Remember, he led the most laps here last year. That is your AT&T mid-race report as we go from the Hollywood Hotel around the track and back upstairs to Mike, Larry, and Darrell.
Thanks, Chris. 1 to go as cleanup is completed. And we cycle back through with Jimmie Johnson to lead the field down to the green for the restart with Tony Stewart. All restarts are double file, and 23 cars make that 24 on the lead lap, as Denny Hamlin was the first car 1 lap down at the time of the caution, and Hamlin gets the free pass.
We had a few drivers that were back in the pack when that caution came out that came to pit road for more adjustments, but since we just had finished a set of green flag pit stops, most everyone up near the front stayed out.
Jimmie Johnson is trying to do something he has never done, and that is win in a backup car. He's finished 3rd or better the last 3 times he's needed a backup, but he's never put a backup car in victory lane yet.
I truly think we saw this in final practice yesterday when they unloaded that backup car, that they were going to be just fine.
He left pit road in that backup car like he'd been in it all weekend. I mean, it was fast right off the truck.
Johnson has gone to victory lane 17 times after leading the halfway lap. But it's far from over. We're just past halfway in the Kobalt Tools 400. Greg Biffle will restart 4th. There's Kevin Harvick 5th. Kasey Kahne will be 7th. Dale Earnhardt Jr. will restart 12th, and Clint Bowyer 13th. Mark Martin 15th as the field comes to the green. Stewart wants the lead back. He may get it.
Got a nice run up off the bottom of the corner there coming out of turn 2. Slides up in front of Jimmie. Tony, I think Tony's been sitting back there. That dust and all you see is from the cleanup from the blown engine. That's just stay dry. It'll blow right away.
Darrell, I found it interesting. Jimmie Johnson, the leader, has the option of which lane to choose on the restart. He chose the outside line, but Tony Stewart in the 14 prevailed on the bottom.
The outside line worked really well yesterday. I'm sure they watched that race as well.
Stewart leads for the first time today. And you see that wipe across our camera lens. Well, the windshield doesn't do that. You get dust on there, and it's going to stay there until they pull a tear off on a pit stop. And cloud your view as Kevin Harvick battles Martin Truex Jr. for 5th place.
And on the restarts, the leader of the race has to cross the start-finish line first. You can't jump that leader. If you do, you'll get a black flag. So you got to let him get to the line first.
Let's check with Matt on Kevin Harvick.
Mike, he restarted 5th, but a combo platter of issues for the 29. First, he's got a vibration. They thought it might be a loose wheel. Their teammate on the 27 had a vibration the entire previous run, but no issue. Harvick thinks it's the rotor, though. His bigger problem, the lap belt on the left side going across his leg is twisted. It's cutting off circulation. His left leg is asleep. How tough is that, DW, with half the race left to go?
Well, it's a distraction, and anytime a driver is driving his race car, he doesn't need any distractions. Those lap belts are right down in there, and he probably got it crossed up when he hooked it up first time, didn't realize it. Now he's having to deal with it. That's one of those things the crew chief will tell you right away. Suck it up, big boy. Can't do anything about that.
You know what Tony Stewart just did? Just ran his fastest lap of the race.
I really think when he was running behind Matt and Jimmy Johnson there early on, and he was talking about what does the race pay at this point, I think he was riding.
Well, now he's led some laps. You know, since Las Vegas Motor Speedway was rebuilt, not only was it reconfigured, but they ripped out the infield and rebuilt it, including a very unique spot for the fans. Jeff?
Yeah, Mike, you're taking a look from where the fans are, looking down inside the Neon Garage. Look at what's happened to the 93 car of Travis Quapple. Obviously, he lost an engine. He broke a rod, stuck it at the bottom of the oil pan, made a big mess. But the fans are able to look here, see what the teams are doing, whether the car's been crashed or it's lost an engine. The thing that's really impressive to me, we talk a lot about what they can learn with this new ECU process. If you look on top of the hood of the car, you'll notice there's a couple engineers right now already going over data, trying to figure out what happened to this 93 car. Travis said, I was going along, he was running perfect, and all of a sudden, it just blew up. They're trying to find out what might have happened prior to losing this engine, guys.
Well, right, Jeff, in the old days, the mechanics would look under the hood for holes in the engine, broken parts or pieces. Now, look at the laptop up on the roof, where a lot of that diagnosis is done for the electronic engine management and ECU, the electronic control unit, the brain of the car.
Yeah, they can look at exhaust gas temperatures, they can look at oil pressure, oil temperature, and they will be able to, it's like taking your car to the dealership. Hook the computer in it, it'll tell you what's wrong with it.
Nothing wrong with Tony Stewart. He leads Jimmy Johnson by 0.6 of a second. Here is Stewart's teammate at Newman Haas, Ryan Newman. At Stewart Haas, excuse me, Newman Haas was an open wheel team. I get so confused there. But Ryan chasing down Carl Edwards. 10th place at stake there.
And you know, everybody talked about Darian Grubb. Well, he won 6 of the last 12 races. Don't forget, Tony Stewart won 5 of the last 10 races in the chase. And they've got a great car right now.
A lot of drivers, though, within striking distance. We've only had 7 different leaders of this race so far, and a lot of contenders who have not been in the front spot close by. Fellows like Martin Truex, Paul Menard, Carl Edwards, Ryan Newman.
Mike, speaking of Carl Edwards, you know, before that last set of green flag pit stops, Dick Bergman mentioned that Carl thought he had a loose wheel. Indeed, when they made that green flag pit stop, Dick had told us that wheel was loose.
Kyle Busch started at the back, as did Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy got to the lead, and Kyle is another one who hasn't led today yet. Steve Burns?
Yeah, Mike, they're still struggling. He got into the fence a little bit. He told Dave Rogers, the crew chief, that they got into the oil a little bit on that last caution. He said he's been landing on the splitter. They came to pit road. They checked fender clearance. They even brought out the toe boards to make sure the car was tracking right. Well, he just got his hands full all day long.
And Darrell, when that car for that driver is landing on the splitter, it's like bottoming out, and the car just won't turn. The front wheels are light.
And his brother Kurt, who's had a tough day, now comes down pit road once again in the James Finch number 51.
Larry, I just wonder, when Darian Grubb came over to Joe Gibbs, I'm sure he brought a pile of information. looks like that's been helped. It looks like it helped the 11 car. But that information, the other crew chiefs take a look at it and say, you know, maybe we ought to try that. Doesn't seem to me like Kyle has had a very good car at Phoenix or today, not what we're accustomed to seeing.
Well, and you know, different drivers have different styles. Sometimes a setup won't suit a particular driver's style.
Kurt Busch back on track after 4 tires as Jimmy Johnson is chasing down Tony Stewart for the lead. The gap is just 1/4 of a second, 145 laps into the Kobalt Tools 400 on Fox.
The Kobalt Tools 400 is sponsored by Frost Brewed Coors Light, the world's most refreshing beer. By Aaron's, credit is hard, Aaron's is easy. By Chevrolet and their award-winning cars, trucks, and crossovers. And by AT&T, the nation's largest 4G network. AT&T. Rethink possible.
Tony Stewart leads Jimmy Johnson by 1.4 seconds. We're 151 laps in. Average speed slowed to 145 miles an hour by 3 caution flags. Yet we still have 24 cars on the lead lap.
And if you wonder why that gap between Tony Stewart at 14 and Jimmy Johnson at 48 all of a sudden grew, Jimmy Johnson almost put that car in the wall in the middle of turn 3 and 4.
Michael McDowell was coasting down the backstretch, but he's made it around to the garage in the Phil Parsons entry.
Mike DeRees and Kurt Busch in that 51 car made an unscheduled pit stop. We got a report he had a flat tire.
Yeah, he was falling back, Larry, and the car looked weird, and so a flat tire will make it look weird.
Last week at Phoenix, Tony Stewart had a problem. He shut the car off to save fuel, and it would not restart. The problem was traced back to the electronic control unit. We're going to go to Jeff at our Ford Tech car. Jeff Hammond.
Let me show you exactly where it's located. We'll go inside the Ford Racing Tech car and we'll show you where it's located at. This is a little box that's located on the dash right now. That's basically the brains of this whole electronic fuel injection process that we're running. This is where really the location of the relay switch that we had a problem with. Right here is where the little fuses were located that actually kicked during the course of the race. Because of this, Tony could not refire his race car. This week, they have been able to take and put a relay in there to eliminate those fuses, bypass them, so that when the engine shuts off, it will not be a problem to refire it. Think about it like this, folks. This is where Tony was sitting. He was trying to refire the car by hitting these switches. When these fuses were kicked, he couldn't reach them. They've got that fixed, and hopefully we won't see this problem today.
Thanks, Jeff. Well, Stewart, redemption perhaps. He is leading this race as he was last year with about 1.4 seconds of lead with just over 100 laps to go.
Yeah, well, he dominated this thing last year, Larry, but he didn't win it.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. has led twice for 70 laps in this race, and he got a little bit of kidding from car owner Rick Hendrick and spotter TJ Majors.
TJ wants to take a couple of weeks off, and I'm going to spot starting at Bristol. All right. Maybe I would guess, man. It's the highest paying, easiest job in the business. Talking about driving. So I'll be the first to tell you we're overpaid, but it ain't easy. So your job is overpaid and easy.
You know, being a spotter for one of these cars at 200 miles an hour, kind of like air traffic control. You got 43 of them out there going around, and you're responsible for yours and also have to keep up with everybody else as we look at team owner Rick Hendrick.
I'm not sure any other driver, crew chief, owner would have that kind of a conversation, but that's typical Dale Jr. But he's having a little bit of fun.
I was going to say, what a good sign. There's TJ Majors, his spotter on the right-hand side, is he feels good about his race car today. But right now, he's sitting back in ninth, about 9.5 seconds back of leader Tony Stewart. This is about a 2-stop race right now from where we sit at this moment.
Well, keep in mind, that's the only one of the 4 Hendrick cars that finished in the top 10 here last year. Dale Jr. finished 8th. At this moment, Matt, 3 of the Hendrick cars are in the top 10.
And Mike, that comedy hour continued for about another 5 minutes, just showing how Letarte and Junior have really gelled, but he's got to fix the race car. Junior said it's the tight it's been all weekend. Look for a significant change when they make their next stop on this 88.
Yeah, it's all fun and games until you can't fix my car.
Right. Looking at Paul Menard, 7th, running right behind Casey Kane, as Tony Stewart's lead over Jimmy Johnson now 1.4 seconds.
The Kobalt Tools 400 is sponsored by Farmers. We are insurance. We are farmers. By Pennzoil, pursuing the latest oil technology because we love cars just as much as you do. And by Subway Restaurants. Try the jalapeno tuna. Featured $5 footlong of March. Hope you're enjoying NASCAR on Fox from Las Vegas. There's Tony Stewart, a showy group at the front of the field. A 3-time champ Stewart, Jimmy Johnson, a 5-time champ following him. And then there's Matt Kenseth, who won in 2003 with just 102 laps to go. Lowe's Racing for Relief Program will match today's race earnings of Team 48 with a donation to the American Red Cross National Disaster Relief Fund. And let's go back upstairs. Mike, Tony Stewart's never won at Las Vegas, has finished second twice, and this is the 9th consecutive race he's been in that he's actually had a lead in.
That's right, Chris. You didn't have to remind him of that either. He knows this is one of the 3 tracks that he has not won on. Had a coulda, woulda, shoulda here last year. Came up short due to a miscue on pit road, but right now he leads Jimmy Johnson. The gap had shrunk to 0.6 of a second, but now it's stabilized at about 3/4 of a second.
Yeah, they just work in traffic right now, getting by some lap cars. But I think Jimmy is equal to Tony. Jimmy lost a bunch of time when he almost hit the wall in 3 and 4. He's slowly gaining that back.
I think we'll see some drivers hitting pit road here shortly for green flag pit stops. If I go back to the last set of green flag stops, Greg Biffle in the 16 was one of the first drivers to hit pit road. We're seeing Dave Blaney there in the 36 on pit road for his green flag stop.
And Larry, I mean, it wouldn't make sense to take 2 tires on the green. You've got to fill it up with fuel. You can put tires on about as quickly as you can put the fuel in.
Yeah, you got to get it full of fuel because this pit stop right here, it's going to, I don't think you can go to the end without stopping one last time.
My buddy, I don't think you can.
You've taught me well.
But if we try it, you're going to need to show me we can.
But
right?
somebody might be able to.
24 cars on the lead lap. Denny Hamlin, the last of those. Last week's winner, and this week Hamlin just kind of hanging on. And you can see the interval has grown 1.2 seconds now once they clear lap traffic from Stewart back to Jimmy Johnson. Matt Kenseth 1.8 back in 3rd. Greg Biffle 5 seconds off the lead in 4th. And Kevin Harvick 7.7 back in 5th.
But all the way back to Dale Jr. in 10th place, there's only 2 to 3 tenths a lap difference in the lap times. That 2 or 3 tenths is all it is. If you could just make up 1 on each end, you'd be running as fast as the leader.
Green flag stop for Juan Pablo Montoya, who began the weekend crashing the wall early in practice and having to go to a backup car right off the bat. And Jeff Burton coming onto pit road. So we do begin this round of green flag stops.
Now, if I think back to that first set of green flag stops, Tony Stewart in the 14, Jimmy Johnson in the 48, they were 2 of the last drivers to hit pit road.
96 laps to go in the Nevada desert, with Stewart lapping at about 30.7 seconds. And here's Dale Jr., who'd been rim riding at the top of the racetrack, and as on the last round of stops, coming in early to make a needed change. Matt?
Mike moving that race car around on the racetrack, trying different lines to see if he could free it up at all. Pulls it to a stop. Big air pressure change on the 88. Good crank on the chassis adjustment. Left side tires coming off. Solid stop so far.
Trevor Baynes in, Joey Logano on pit road, Greg Biffle, Kevin Harvick, Casey Kane, Paul Menard, along with Carl Edwards, Jamie McMurray, and more. Kyle Busch is in too, Matt.
And the Budweiser crew going to work. Harvick said he wanted an adjustment in the same direction that they went on the previous stop, but only half as much because he doesn't want to take too big of a swing, Krista, and get the car out of
Greg Biffle coming in. He said, I am close. They were close on fuel here. He had to come in now. He said, this is the swing I marked on my calendar. I feel really good about this track. Paul Menard also in. Paul Menard has had a very solid car. They thought they had run over debris earlier in the race. They say all is good.
Ryan Newman, Denny Hamlin, Mark Martin, Martin Truex are in. So is Clint Bowyer and Marcus Ambrose.
Yeah, definitely, Darrell. If I look at 94 laps to go, if you break that pretty much in half with 47 laps each run, maybe make it on one more stop. Krista.
Martin Truex also in. Martin Truex needing his car just a little bit tighter. Dick?
In for his pit stop, said it's only the center of the corner that he's not fast in. Very minor changes. Johnson said the car is very close.
Jimmy coming out as Regan Smith comes in. David Rudiman also in. And here comes Tony Stewart, bringing Matt Kenseth down pit lane with him. Dick Berggren.
And Matt Kenseth now on pit road. The car was much better at the beginning of the race than it has been after he got himself into traffic. Matt.
Dick, they're going to make a chassis adjustment for Stewart. The car goes back and forth, being too tight and then being a little too free. It was a little free on exit on both ends of the racetrack. Jeff Gooch Patterson's going to top off the 14. Solid stop. He is away.
David Stremme, Brendan Gaughan in the pit lane. Now, Stewart had an 0.8 of a second lead over Jimmy Johnson prior to pit stops. Brad Keselowski and A.J. Allmendinger are now the front two with 92 laps to go.
All right, that 17 bunch, though, they knocked out a pit stop down there and made up a lot of time.
Which is not unusual for Matt Kenseth's pit crew.
Jeff Gordon rises to third. Keselowski, Allmendinger, and Gordon are the lead lap cars who have not yet stopped, along with David Reagan.
Now, Allmendinger in the 22 and Jeff Gordon in the 24, they came back in on that last caution at lap 126. So we would expect those two drivers to go a little further. We're seeing Brad Keselowski in the 2 on pit road now.
Keselowski and Ken Schrader to pit road as we continue under green. Remember, Keselowski had a speeding penalty on pit road earlier. Bobby Labonte also in. Matt.
Mike Keselowski has just about seen it all today. You mentioned a speeding penalty. Then they took only fuel on one stop, trying to make up that track position. The car loose in, even looser on exit. You saw the crew member make the chassis adjustment on the Blue Deuce.
A.J. Allmendinger did lead a lap for the first time today, and now he comes to pit road. And but for Jeff Gordon, that will complete the cycle of green flag stops.
You know, Darrell talked about it earlier. Now that we have the blueprint of the new point system where every position is 1 point, leading a lap is a point, I think these drivers know, based on last year, every point is so important. Krista.
A.J. Allmendinger trying to make up for what he did early in the race when he missed his pit box and called his move. Embarrassing. The team coming in, as you said, leading that lap, coming around to make a 4-tire change for the Dinger.
Jeff Gordon will give up an 18-second lead to make this pit stop with 89 laps to go. That'll cycle back through and put Tony Stewart back in the lead. And Jimmy Johnson will be a little closer than before pit stops began. Steve?
Mike, Jeff Gordon saying his car is plowing. They're going to make a pretty significant chassis adjustment, and 4 tires for Jeff Gordon, just chasing the racetrack and the handle all day.
Thanks, Steve. Before pit stops began, Stewart had an 0.8 of a second lead. He now has a 0.5 second lead, and the second place car is still Jimmy Johnson. 2 Chevys leading 2 Fords at Las Vegas. 88 laps to go. You're watching the Kobalt Tools 400.
You're watching NASCAR on Fox.
The Kobalt Tools 400 is sponsored by Sprint, proud sponsor of the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series.
82 laps to go in Las Vegas. Let's take an inside look at what's happening in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, brought to you by Sprint. Fastest lap today and the biggest mover in the race. Get unlimited access to the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series with live in-car audio and real-time stats only on the Sprint network. Learn more at sprint.com/speed. Jimmy Johnson up to second place. He's now 1.2 seconds behind race leader Tony Stewart, who has just put a lap on Jeff Gordon. While we were away, Casey Mears made an unscheduled stop for left side tires.
Yeah, Steve Burns also said that he was out of fuel when Casey Mears came to pit road.
Yeah, I heard him go by here and the motor sounded funny, and I guess it was running out of gas.
Got a bit of a cloud cover now. We hadn't seen a cloud all week here in Las Vegas. Just now the sun is beginning to poke back through down in turns 1 and 2. So let's go down to the south end of the racetrack, turns 1 and 2, and Jeff Hammond at the University of Farmers.
Well, Mike, right now you can kind of see I'm up here in turn 1, and everybody's talked about the bumps in turn 1 since we got here to Las Vegas. Talking to some drivers and crew chiefs late in Saturday afternoon, they said the longer they run, the more rubber that builds up down here on this end of the racetrack, the smoother the bumps have been getting. Watching the cars from this vantage point, especially our leader, Tony Stewart, and the guy chasing him, Jimmy Johnson, they're all over the racetrack, looking for the proper line, wherever the car feels the best. I'm not seeing the bounce that we saw early in the week. Cars are a lot smoother, and you can pretty much hunt and run wherever you want to. For Tony, keeping a wide arc and running right through the middle of 1 and 2 seems to be pretty fast for our leader.
Thanks, Jeff. There's Stewart off turn 2 down the backstretch.
And that's what great drivers do. They know their car so well, and they know how their cars handle. A little tight, I'm going to move up. A little loose, I'm going to try something else. I'm going to find a place where this car will perform at its best, and then it makes it easy to drive.
Boy, Matt Kenseth has come on since this last pit stop. His number 17, right in Jimmy Johnson's tire track, 2nd to 3rd.
Yeah, he made up a ton of time in the pits. A great pit stop, and he came out, and ever since they restarted or started back on this last round of pit stops, he's been fast.
Kenseth back to 2nd place. Now down in turns 1 and 2, there are billboards that line the track and cast shadows that we thought might be a factor today. But at 2 o'clock this morning, daylight savings time kicked in, so we're not going to get that late afternoon sunshine and shade like we've seen here the rest of the weekend.
Yeah, but I think the biggest thing that's happening here is, like Jeff Hammond talked about, that rubber starting to build up.
A guy that can't be happy with his car, Larry, is the guy down on the right of the screen there, Jeff Gordon. He has struggled with this car all day long.
Ooh.
Not sure.
Looked like he wasn't happy with Joey Logano on the 20 either.
I think he's going to take it out on Joey Logano.
And just moments ago, that's Eric Almirola on the outside of, whoa, race leader Tony Stewart.
And that's what happens. You get down on the bottom of the track coming off turn 4, carrying a lot of speed. You need the whole racetrack. And he had to get hard onto the steering wheel to try to keep off of Eric, and he almost spun into him.
What I saw right there, though, look at Matt Kenseth in the 17 with Jeff Gordon in the 24 and Joey Logano 23 wide on the apron. Here at Las Vegas, you can go below that white line because it's not a double yellow line like at Daytona.
I think Jeff Gordon is trying to school the young man in the 20 car. He's not taking any of Joey Logano's stuff right now.
Jimmy Johnson trying to work through this group. He's now the 3rd place car as Kenseth gets a little further away. Darrell, when you do what Kenseth did and drop all the way down below the white line, you've got a lot of room to race there, but that's not clean racetrack.
No, it's not. It's dirty, but here's what's going on with Jeff Gordon and Logano. They're fighting for the lucky dog. And so they're not really, I mean, it looks aggressive, and it is, because Jeff knows he's got to stay ahead of that 20 in case the caution comes out.
There's A.J. Allmendinger down on the apron in his Penske Dodge, and we'll see if he's headed for pit road or for the garage. 72 laps to go. Tony Stewart in the lead. This past Friday night in Las Vegas, Kevin Harvick took in the latest Ultimate Fighting competition this upcoming Friday on Ultimate Fighter Live. Rivalries hit home when coaches Dominic Cruz and Uriah Faber divide the final 16. Who will be the first to fight? Don't miss Ultimate Fighter Live Friday, 10 p.m. only on FX. Tony Stewart, your leader, 1.6 seconds up on Kevin Harvick, and A.J. Allmendinger did go to the garage while we were away. A while back, we saw this with race leader Tony Stewart trying to lap Eric Almirola. And here's what Tony had to say about that slide.
Had to work there a little bit, didn't you? I kind of had my hands full.
You know, considering he almost wrecked the car leading the race, I'd say he was pretty well under control of his emotions. He wasn't mad at Eric.
No.
thing I noticed, the tracker, the pointer there, 170 miles an hour, yanking it to the left.
Oh, yeah, in a four-wheel slide.
Matt Kenseth, second place car, 1.1 seconds off the lead, and that number's coming down. He is closing on Tony Stewart.
If I was Tony Stewart and Matt Kenseth was that close to me, I'd be worried, because Matt's always saving a little something.
Jimmy Johnson in a backup car, went from the back to the lead and now sits in third, 3.6 back, and caution is on the speedway for debris in the back straightaway. Now in fourth, Greg Biffle, and what a drive today for Paul Menard in the Richard Childress Racing number 27 Chevy.
Yeah, he started back in the 22nd position. He's just kept it clean, good solid pit stops, just been chipping away all day.
Yeah, Larry, he didn't just happen to be there right now. He's been running in the top 5 or 6 pretty much his whole race.
Went out skiing in Colorado this week with Regan Smith, and Smith was driving, hit a patch of black ice and got off into the woods. Nobody was hurt. The irony of it is that Menard is an accomplished ice racer back in his native Wisconsin.
He should have been driving.
Trevor Bayne will get the free pass on this caution flag, the 4th one of the day. .62 to go. The Toyota top performers at the moment: Martin Truex in 11th, Clint Boyer 14th, Kyle Busch, who started last in a backup, 17th, and Mark Martin back in 18th.
When Martin had been running up in the top 5 or 6 most of the day, he slid back here a little bit. Maybe they'll make a nice adjustment on this pit stop.
Well, you can't make it from here on fuel, but I think back earlier, Dick Berger, when some of these drivers only had 25 laps on their tires, we saw some 2-tire stops, Dick.
Well, it's hard to say what's going to happen here, but they are watching what everybody else is doing. Matt Kenseth, just a little bit of adjustment on his car. The same with Jimmy Johnson's car, number 48. Matt.
The 14 to Tony Stewart. The game plan here, right side tires. They will top him off with fuel. Stewart said that the car is absolutely the best it's been all day, Krista.
Greg Biffle asked his team, can we make it the distance from here? Crew chief Matt Husha said no. So what are they going to do? Gamble and take 2 or go for 4? Greg says, I think we have to do 4. That's the plan for the 16. They come around to the left side. Yes, an adjustment and 4 tires.
Tony Stewart comes off pit road all by himself because he took on 2 tires.
I think I saw that 88 of Dale Earnhardt Jr., Jamie McMurray in the 1, and Ryan Newman in the 39. Those top 4 plus Kyle Busch 2 right side tires.
What will be the winning hand in Vegas? 2 tires or 4? We'll be right back.
Las Vegas watching closely the Kobalt Tools 400 from Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Under 60 laps to go. Tony Stewart leading Dale Earnhardt Jr. Recent round of pit stops as we're getting ready to go green. Strategy on tires.
I love what Dale Jr. did. We saw that car fast when it was up front. He got in the back. He couldn't go anywhere. Got 2 tires. He's back up on the front row. Tony, that's a little bit more questionable. He came in the leader, got 2 tires. Matt Kenseth is back in 5th with 4. Could be a tough matchup to beat somebody with 4 tires.
What should we look for on the restart?
Look for Tony Stewart to try to hug that white line, run low, and get away from Dale Jr. He needs to put a gap on the guys behind him that have 4 tires, so by the time the new wears off their tires, he has a bit of a lead.
With Michael Waltrip, Chris Myers, back up to Darrell, Larry, and Mike. Temperatures, the weather, of course, the tires, and the guys at the front of the pack, Mike.
Thanks, Chris. Denny Hamlin and Jeff Gordon took the wave around to get back on the lead lap, but that means they did not stop during this caution flag. 7 other drivers, more than a lap down, also took the wave around. So on the restart, Stewart and Earnhardt at the front. Jamie McMurray, who's had 2 tough finishes in that car, number 1, 31st at Daytona, 37th at Phoenix, but McMurray running very well today. He and Ryan Newman, row 2. Kyle Busch and Matt Kenseth, Greg Biffle, Jimmy Johnson. And the top 10, Paul Menard and Martin Truex Jr. as we get ready to restart with 58 laps to go. Ready for the green flag, and we'll give you NASCAR on Fox. Crank it up as we go green.
Come outside, 18, right down on you. Come outside. Clear the 18.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. spun the tires on the restart, so it was the inside lane that went. Tony Stewart, Jamie McMurray with Earnhardt now third. Kenseth sitting in fourth. Ryan Newman, Greg Biffle, Kyle Busch back up in the top 10. Paul Menard, Carl Edwards, Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah, I thought Junior really was impressive. I mean, Kenseth's got 4 brand new tires on his car, and he got by Junior, but Junior drove right back around him.
55 to go. Dick Berggren, how about Jamie Mack in second?
Well, early on in the race, Mike, they thought their day was going to be done. They had engine problems. They had a mechanic inside the car. They had a couple of them under the hood, but they seem to have corrected their engine problems. 2 tires on the last stop. McMurray is now running in second spot.
Yeah, we had 6 drivers go with just 2 tires. Stewart, Dale Earnhardt Jr., McMurray, Newman, Kyle Busch, and Martin Truex Jr.
You know, that caution flag right there, Larry, was a perfect time for a lot of these guys. They got caught back up, and now there's some guys that are going to be players in this game, and there goes one of them right there in that 99 car. He struggled a little bit today, but right now he's back up in the top 10 and looking pretty racy.
Yeah, I would be hesitant to say that we are finished with cautions, but it put every driver about 8 to 12 laps outside of being able to make it to the end.
Last year, Carl Edwards won this race, but didn't lead till lap 152.
I wondered if we should come in and top off there. We had talked about it. I didn't want you to top off, or I would have told you to. Everybody is talking about 6 laps to be short here.
But you know
Jimmy
what?
Johnson, Carl Edwards.
You know what I like about that? Carl asked a question. Bob Osborne emphatically said, if I wanted you to come in, I would have told you.
Right.
With confidence.
With confidence. You know, you drive the car, I'll run the pits.
Well, the Fords are going forward. Matt Kenseth moves up to third, passes Dale Jr., and Kenseth now 1.7 out of the lead. Tony Stewart out front of Jamie McMurray by 0.8 of a second in the Kobalt Tools 400. Who will take home this unique trophy in Las Vegas?
The Kobalt Tools 400 is sponsored by Kobalt Tools. Kobalt, the next generation of tough tools.
46 laps to go in Las Vegas. Tony Stewart leading Jamie McMurray by 1 second. 2010 was Jamie's year. Won Daytona, won the Brickyard, won 3 of the sport's biggest races, just missed making the chase. And 2011 was just devastating. They just had no luck at all. Started the season out with 2 finishes in the 30s, and here he is running in second.
Well, he and his crew chief, Kevin Bono, I like that combination. I'll tell you why. Last year when they weren't running good, I never heard Bono one time say it was Jamie's fault. He said, well, cars are not right. We don't have the right stuff. And here they are now. They got their cars better, obviously, and running good.
Matt Kenseth up into second place. 1.4 behind Tony Stewart. Let's take an inside look at what's happening in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, brought to you by Sprint. We're going to go on board and take a ride around with Jimmy Johnson riding 5th. Check out NASCAR Sprint Cup mobile app on your Android-powered device on the only national carrier with truly unlimited data. Learn more at sprint.com/speed. Eric Almirola's made a pit stop at 43 laps to go.
Old cousin Carl back there in that 99 car, Carl Edwards, he keeps getting a little bit better, I think that's one reason that Bob Osborne, his crew chief, did not want to bring him back in to top it off with fuel. He has seen what putting drivers back in the pack does to the performance.
The Fords are sneaking up on those Chevrolets at the front of the pack. Kenseth now second, Biffle in 4th, and Edwards 9th.
They do that a lot. I mean, if you think back, Larry, we've seen time when they weren't very good in practice, they weren't very good in qualifying, but once they got into the race in the latter stages, they always seem to come on strong.
But here comes Paul Menard trying to get back up to the 5th position where he was earlier. Had a run on Carl Edwards up on the top side of the racetrack. See if he completes the pass here off turn 2 with 41 to go.
That Menard, he has driven a great race today. I hope he can bring it home because he has had a great run all day long.
Paul now in 9th place. Kyle Busch has been in and out of the top 10 after starting that backup car in the back and getting into the wall in the oil from Travis Quapple's engine.
Well, he's had a rough start to the season. I mean, you think about his Saturday car. He wrecked it yesterday, and he had wrecked his primary car and had to go to a backup car, and he's had a rough couple of weeks.
And he was one of the drivers that elected to go with just 2 tires on that last stop as well. I think you really need a good driving car. We got a caution out with debris on the front stretch, but I think you have to have a really decent driving race car to go with 2 tires.
With 39 laps to go, we're under yellow. Should this be the final pit stop?
Yes, this will definitely get you there on fuel. And I would not be surprised to see some of the drivers that changed 4 tires on that last stop, little fuel only. You don't need much. Remember, like Bob Osborne said, we're only about 6 to 8 laps shy.
Well, Jeff Hammond, let's talk a little strategy here. If you took 4 last time, do you gamble with 2? And may some drivers take no tires at all?
I think the guys are going to take no tires at all now, Mike, because we've all seen track position being so important, because I think that's what Tony Stewart and Steve Addington were planning on trying to do, is get Tony out front, tell him just to run as hard as you can, because if it had stayed green, they had to duck down pit road, splash of gas on the victory lane. Now they've got to be careful not to, once again, fall victims of staying on pit road too long. I look for those guys to go gas only once again and get out there and stay out front.
I know another thing that we could see here with 21 drivers on the lead lap, we anticipate all of them will pit. If you're only there for a few seconds, you have to be heads up, because you'll be leaving your pits as another driver's coming in, and we see a calamity a lot of times.
What if I stayed out? Can I make it?
It's going to be awfully marginal. I do not want to put you in that boat, because we have too many unknowns, just like what we saw at Phoenix last week.
What if that's the only way I could win this race?
Well, now you'd have to run 61 laps, and some of those laps will be under caution. Ooh, that's a gamble.
That's still about 8 to 10 laps.
Yeah, they were 6 laps, so 6 laps is...
All right, pit road's open. Jeff Burton gets the free pass. Let's start with Dick Berggren.
And Matt Kenseth currently running in 2nd position. Just minor changes, going to tighten the car up just a little bit. And Jimmy Johnson running in the 5th position. Minor changes there. Matt.
Tony Stewart's car was about 6 laps short on fuel. Addington has made the call. They are just going to top him off to try to keep as much track position as possible, Krista.
Greg Biffle was told by his team, we have to stop. We could not have made it the distance. They decided they needed about 3 seconds of fuel. That is all they're getting.
Tire changes for Denny Hamlin, Jeff Gordon, and Martin Truex, Regan Smith. But a lot of drivers took fuel only.
Yeah, it's aggravating to have to stop for 3 gallons of fuel, but that's what you have to do.
Dale Jr., Paul Menard, Ryan Newman, 2 tires.
We saw drivers that changed 2 tires the last time. Drivers that changed 4 tires go with fuel only. I said it to the mid-race report. You have to do now whatever you can do to keep your driver near the front of the pack.
With 37 laps to go, let's get an AT&T race break.
Thanks, Mike. With Michael Waltrip, and Tony Stewart has led 93 laps. Remember last year leading the most laps here, he said we let one get away. Second sucks is how Tony Stewart put it. Right now, his strategy at this point, you said for some gambling staying out, you wouldn't recommend it.
Well, but we had a couple guys do it. Clint Boyer in the 5-Hour Energy car and Brad Keselowski both decided to stay out under this caution. They've got to stretch their mileage. Are they betting that there's going to be more cautions after this? You know how things get tense at the end of these races. We saw it in that last little green flag sprint there. Guys rubbing each other, leaning on each other, really getting aggressive.
It was a circuit breaker that ended Tony's run last week in Phoenix. He's trying to be a circuit breaker today, win for the first time here in Phoenix. Who has the best chance to unseat him if we don't see another caution?
Well, a couple of Fords are really fast, Kenseth and Biffle. They both have better tires on the left side than Tony has too. Can they use those better tires as an advantage and put Tony in their mirror? I don't know. Tony's been awful strong, but I like those tires on the Fords.
The Jack Roush Fords have won half of the race races that have been run here in Las Vegas. The disappointment of Carl Edwards, who really eighth his best so far. He started 21st.
Well, kind of like Darrell said, he's been Casey Kane-ish. You know, Casey got back around 10th or 12th, and he hasn't been able to go anywhere. Carl's in that same boat. And look at Kyle Busch. He started last, drove all the way to the front despite running into the wall and being in a backup car. But once he got to the top 10, hadn't been able to go any further. So those are some guys felt like might be stronger than they are.
You know, Michael, we saw Dale Earnhardt Jr. lead the first 43 laps of this race. He's led 70 total today. That's more than all of what he led last year, which was just over 50 laps. What kind of opportunity do you give him? And you've talked before about being out in front versus being in back of the pack a little bit.
Yeah, he's in the top 10. He put himself on the front row for a restart, but he spun his tires and lost 3 or 4 spots, was able to hang in there, but not as well as Tony. 2 tires on that 88 car of Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s didn't work as good as the ones on Stewart.
The last 9 races that Dale Earnhardt Jr. has actually led the most laps that he's failed to win, running second here at the moment behind, as we said, Tony Stewart, your race leader, and leading 94 laps. Let's see how our drivers are doing in the AT&T Fastest Driver Challenge here, and you can sign up to play AT&T Fastest Driver Challenge next week by texting FAST to 34763 or go to AT&TFastestDriver.com for a chance to win 4Gs. Brought to you by the nation's largest 4G network, Rethink Possible. Speaking of next week, it's been a rough day for the Busch brothers, but when you go to Bristol, as we will next Sunday, they always seem to do well there.
This is Thunder Valley.
The 3 R's of racing: wrecking, retaliation, and rivalries.
She's a lot like a heavyweight fight.
Rubbing is racing. You've got to either be worried about getting run over or running over somebody else.
It's the world's fastest conveyor belt. That's Bristol.
This is where the Thunder rolls.
It's all about the wild thing.
Thunder Valley. We'll see you there.
Next Sunday with NASCAR on Fox, Eric Almirola took the wave around. As we get ready to go back to green, the 2 drivers on the front row did not pit. There's Almirola's car, the King's number 43. Interesting story there. Taking a page from Major League Baseball, Richard Petty now has racing fantasy camp. A bunch of folks are here to hang with the King at the race. Then they'll go run the Bull Ring at Las Vegas on Monday, drive the Super Speedway Tuesday, and a road course Wednesday. Fantasy camp. Pretty cool. All right. Clint Bowyer and Brad Keselowski stayed out. Here's the Keselowski decision.
Staying out, no matter what these cats do in front of you. Staying out. Staying out. Here you go, bud. Clean air. Ask and you shall receive.
Before pit stops, Bowyer was 13th. Keselowski was 14th. Steve on Bowyer.
And crew chief Brian Patty told Clint Bowyer, go ahead and pit. We'll finish 13th. Stay out. We could win this thing. They're going to go for it.
That's my strategy. The only way I can win this thing is maybe stay out. I'll take a chance. And by the way, before we go green, I want to say hello to my sweet wife back home.
Thanks, Darrell. Stevie a little bit under the weather, and hello to Walter Cox from our NASCAR on Fox staff. Little indigestion put him away from the racetrack today. Green flag. Oh, here comes Stewart to the bottom. 3 wide for the lead. That's Vegas, baby.
Remind me of Tony Stewart of Homestead back in November when he knew what he needed to do.
He didn't take the lead. He stole it.
So much for clean air.
That was the thunder from down under the white line to get the lead for Stewart.
You know, early last year, Tony was struggling on restarts, but man, all of a sudden, latter part of last year, he came alive when it come time to drop that green flag.
There's still 3 wide mid-pack. Casey Kane down to the bottom. Menard, the meat and the sandwich. Ryan Newman up top.
That usually doesn't work very long, very well.
But Darrell, we've always said, on the restart, that's your chance. If you're going to get them now.
Well, they're proving that to be the right theory. I can tell you, they got them grouped up. Boy, Matt Kenseth there in the 17 car got up out of the groove, had to get out of the throttle. He lost a bunch of spots.
Mike, it became apparent to me that someone told these drivers there's 32 laps to go. You've got enough fuel to get to the end. You've got what you got as far as tires.
Show me something.
Well, Tony Stewart did. He flat snookered him on that restart. We had a little pre-race thoughts from Tony on how this day might go, but now he is under pressure from Keselowski for the lead. Start-finish line. Brad on the bottom. Dead even at the line, and Dodge out in front, turn 1.
You know, Paul Wolf has won a couple of races for Brad by gambling. And that was a heck of a gamble to stay out. But look at this. He's up there. He's got a shot.
Didn't quite get the lead, but Keselowski just ran his fastest lap of the race.
And I think he did that by how he drove that thing off into turn 3 the last time through there.
Now let's have a listen to what Tony Stewart said to his team in pre-race.
Careful today, guys. Just do what we've been doing. Haven't had any luck here yet, but this will get us turned around here today. We got a good car here, so we'll just take care of it all day long and get us what we deserve here.
And you know, Mike, Tony is under a bit of a pressure if you think about it. Letting Darian Grubb go, and Darian goes over there with Denny Hamlin, and they won the race last weekend, and people started saying, well, maybe Tony made a bad decision. I think he's trying to prove something here today.
And then think about the pressure of Steve Addington, Tony Stewart's new crew chief on the pit box, taking over a driver and a team that won 5 of the last 10 races and the championship last year.
All right, who's missing from that picture up front? Right there, Matt Kenseth. Currently 7th. Kenseth was in position to challenge, but 2 laps ago.
Yeah, he just got up there and he got to higher and higher and higher, and he finally made contact off turn 4. It didn't damage the car, but didn't break his momentum.
29 laps to go in the Kobalt Tools 400. Well, let's go side by side. It's Tony Stewart leading. Brad Keselowski staying within 1 second of Tony Stewart. Greg Biffle 1.4 and Jimmy Johnson 1.9 out of the lead. Jamie McMurray 2.9 back. That's your top 5. Then Kenseth, Boyer, Edwards, Kane, and Newman the top 10. With Dale Earnhardt Jr. 11th and Mark Martin 12th. Here's what happened between those two 1 lap ago.
Mark comes up and Dale Jr. says, hey, man, you broke my... Whoa, I mean, he got in the wall a little bit going down through there. Gave him a real nice tap.
I mean, Earnhardt had a run, but yeah, that's pretty hard hit.
Yes, he did with both ends of that 55 car.
And Mark, you'd have been running about 18th all day long. I've been telling Larry, I said, you watch that 55, he'll be 10th when this thing's over with.
Only 23 laps to go, and caution waves for Landon Castle, who suffers the same fate as his teammate Travis Kvapil, just about 100 laps later than the 93, which went up in smoke and brought out the caution at lap 127. This is lap 244, meaning Castle's engine lasted just about twice as long as his teammates.
Now, to me, one of the drivers that caution benefits would be Brad Keselowski in the 2 car, because it's about a 2-to-1 ratio. Caution's the green. He was going to have to go 61 laps on fuel, so that was going to be a little bit marginal.
There was a bit of a discussion on that caution lap between Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Mark Martin. They got side by side and kind of close enough for hand signals up in turns 3 and 4.
Mark's got a lot of damage to his car, and he drove up along the side of Dale Jr. and expressed his displeasure with that young man.
Back single file. Everything okay now under this caution. The 6th one of the day with 22 laps to go.
Before that caution, a driver that was really coming was Jimmy Johnson in that 48 car. We was watching his lap times, and he was on the move.
Yeah, if Tony Stewart had a great restart last time, he better have another one equally as good this time.
Joey Logano will get the free pass under this caution flag and be back on the lead lap. We'll restart with 23 lead lap cars.
With 22 drivers on the lead lap roughly, and then as you said 23, Mike, I don't see anybody in the top dozen coming to pit road. If you're one of the drivers that are at the back of the lead lap, you know, why not? Come for adjustments, come for tires. And I think we're seeing it starting with Kyle Busch in the 18 and a lot of drivers that were behind him.
But Larry,
Menard, Ambrose, Harvick lead the pack onto pit road.
Right now is when the great drivers and the great athletes shine. This is an opportunity. Tony Stewart has dominated this race, but this is an opportunity for Jimmy Johnson or Greg Biffle or Matt Kenseth to step it up a notch and go up there and take the win.
Denny Hamlin and Jeff Burton also came to pit road. 4 tires for Burton, left sides for Harvick.
Great athletes want the ball. You know, they want to catch the winning touchdown. They want to hit the winning three-pointer. This is what you live for right here. If you're a Keselowski, Biffle, Johnson, Kenseth, these guys, this is the moment they've been living for.
Well, on the last restart, Tony Stewart pulled what everybody will be remembering as our 5-hour energy move of the race. Here's another look at it. Stewart is on the inside of row 2. Can't pass before the start-finish line. But boy, what a well-timed move that was.
And that was, Mike, it was all timing. He timed it just right, and he got a little head of steam, was able to blow by these guys.
And all that white line does is say, here is where the track apron starts. That's not an out-of-bounds line, except at Daytona and Talladega. We'll go side by side with 21 laps to go. Under caution, Tony Stewart leading Brad Keselowski and Greg Biffle. Welcome back to Las Vegas, where the trail of Speedy Dry goes from the exit of turn 2 all the way halfway down pit road to where Landon Castle turned into the garage area. That's why we have a lengthy cleanup for this 6th caution flag of the afternoon. Tony Stewart leading Brad Keselowski, Greg Biffle, Jimmy Johnson, and Matt Kenseth. Well, we listened in on Brad Keselowski's team communication during this caution.
We can't let ourselves be intimidated by any of these guys. When it comes time, we just make sure we're aggressive. I agree with you, man.
Brad Keselowski being worried about being aggressive? I don't think so.
I don't know if Brad Keselowski is worried about Tony. But if I were Tony, I'd be worried about Brad Keselowski, I can tell you that.
It's been a long time since I've seen Brad Keselowski intimidated by anybody.
Now, of the drivers that pitted, Paul Menard came out in 17th. Krista.
Greg Biffle definitely a factor in these closing laps. He said last year we had good cars, but we couldn't seal the deal, and that takes a toll on you mentally. We made changes in the offseason, and it is paying off. Words cannot adequately express how badly the Biff wants this win.
He is 3rd. His teammate Kenseth is 5th. His other teammate Carl Edwards is 7th.
I love the Biff. You know, after Daytona, everybody said he didn't try to win the race. He was so, his sarcasm, obviously. He said, nah, I didn't want to win that race. Didn't pay me $1.5 million. Had to go on that media tour and do all that stuff.
and then when people called him on that and thought he was being serious, he said, now wait a minute. We downloaded the data in our laptop computer. We'll show you the data, and the throttle trace said 100% throttle 100% of the time those last few laps.
But you know, we talked about it at the top of the show. This race a year ago is where I think really frustration started setting in for Greg Biffle. He had a race car that could win this race, and they couldn't get fuel into it.
Well, that and maybe Charlotte with his cool box.
All right, 18 laps to go. Chris Myers.
11 leaders, 16 lead changes. If you tuned in a little bit late, it was Dale Earnhardt Jr. Casey Kane on the pole, but Jr. led the first 43 laps, led 70 total in the race, more than he had led the entire season last year. Jimmy Johnson went from 40th in a backup car out in front and led for a while. Johnson led 35 laps. But Tony Stewart, you saw him on a restart moments ago. He shot in front, said that's what they pay me to do. Remember, he's the owner driver. He's led the most laps, closing in on 110, and right now has the lead over Brad Keselowski and Greg Biffle. Of his 44 career wins, only one of Tony Stewart's victories have come in the month of March, and of course he's still looking, Mike, for that first Las Vegas win.
The one thing these guys have got to be aware of, clean them up. That spotter, that crew chief, clean them up. Get their tires clean because they've been through all that stay dry. You don't want to spin the tires on this restart.
That happened to Dale Earnhardt Jr. earlier in the race.
So of the cars that just pitted, Paul Menard 17th, Kyle Busch 18th, Ambrose, Harvick, Burton, Hamlin, and Logano at the tail end of the lead lap. Tony Stewart in a Chevrolet and Brad Keselowski's Dodge are going to lead them down for this restart. It'll be 17 laps to go in front of a packed house in Las Vegas. Green flag.
And Brad spun the tires just a little bit. Not much, but enough to lose momentum.
And Jimmy Johnson in that 48 and a whole bunch of other drivers are going to take advantage of that. In fact, Brad Keselowski, he can't go.
There's something wrong with the car. He spun the tires. I bet he missed the shift.
Falling like a rock through the field.
Something's up big time.
And that gives Tony Stewart a 4-car length lead on the Biff.
Here comes that 48 car, though.
Yeah, it won't pick anything up.
Keselowski will pit. Stewart across with the lead.
Well, as I see him struggling with fuel right now as he comes to pit road, A.J. Allmendinger in the 22 car, his teammate had an issue with fuel pressure earlier.
What's you were talking about fuel pressure? Here comes pressure for Tony Stewart in the color of a blue car with a 4.8 on the side of it.
Keselowski, you saw him drop back through the field there. As everyone else was coming to speed, he will go a lap down as he gets gas. And Jimmy Johnson, the new second-place car, closes to within 2 car lengths of the lead.
He that was last shall be first.
Started at the back in a backup car after a practice crash yesterday, Jimmy Johnson.
And Larry, I know we've said this a couple of times, but I knew when that car hit the racetrack, as soon as they rolled that car out, it was a better race car than what they wrecked. At least the practice speeds and the way it looked told us it was.
Jimmy has won 4 of the last 7 Las Vegas Sprint Cup races. And Jimmy Johnson just ran. So did Tony Stewart. Fastest lap of the race. All the top 5 just ran their fastest lap of the race just now.
And Tony Stewart's looking in his mirror and he's saying, oh, and you can fill in the blank.
But Jimmy Johnson said this week when he was asked about being at such a points deficit after that penalty at Daytona, which the appeal will be heard Tuesday, what do you think? He said, sounds like to me, we need to go out and win some races.
13 laps to go. We'll go side by side for the final time before the checkered flag today. You're watching NASCAR on Fox. A hard hit for Kurt Busch puts us under the 7th caution of the day. Said he cut down a left rear tire, ran over a piece of debris. Here's a look from Kyle Busch's car.
Still clear. Spinning behind you.
You can just see it looked like the right rear went down and the car just
yellows out.
Immediately turned.
Just caught the end of the one barrier and into the other. Now, that was similar to an area that Jeff Gordon hit a couple of years ago that was not protected by a safer barrier. So that wreck a lot less severe than it might have been a few years ago. Tony Stewart, Jimmy Johnson 1-2. If you look back in history, NASCAR's greatest 1-2 punch ever, Richard Petty and David Pearson. 63 times stock car racing's king and the Silver Fox finished 1-2. Pearson having a little bit of an edge in the finishes. Of their generation, Tony Stewart and Jimmy Johnson are NASCAR's 1-2 punch. 12 times they've finished 1-2. Johnson went to victory lane 7 of the 12 times. But the 5 times that Tony won, 3 of those 5 were on 1.5-mile racetracks like this one.
Well, that's a 5-time against a 3-time.
That's right.
We'll see how it works out.
I don't know how they're going to finish up, but all I know is this next restart, you better strap your TV down because it's going to be exciting. Then throw those 3 Roush Fenway drivers in the mix. Greg Biffle in the 16, Matt Kenseth in the 17, and Carl Edwards in the 99. There's some hungry hounds back there.
What was it we said about halfway, man? The Fords just aren't running very good today.
And there they are. And Jamie Mack in the 1. How long has it been since he's been to victory lane? Casey Kane in the 5, our pole sitter. Clint Boyer in the 15. Ryan Newman and Dale Earnhardt Jr., your top 10 for this restart. Roush Fenway Fords 3rd, 4th, 5th right now.
And nobody knows how important a win is more than Tony Stewart, because that's how he won his championship, by having more wins than Carl Edwards last year in 2011.
David Reagan getting the free pass. And now this does play into Clint Boyer's hands. Remember, he did not make a pit stop at lap 230, but these additional caution laps will likely allow the 8th place car to get to the checkered flag.
And remember, you live for this moment, but you can't let this moment overcome you. You got to stay cool. Take all the skill you got, bring this thing home.
Dale Jr. has led 70 laps today. Can he lead the last one? He's 9th. Ryan Newman's run up toward the front, but not at the front. Clint Boyer in 8th, Kane in 7th, McMurray in 6th.
I like where Biffle's sitting. He could do exactly what Tony Stewart did on that last restart. He could go by both the 48 and the 14 going into turn 1.
Hey, how about Trevor Bayne up for 11th place with Mark Martin in the 6th row? He's had a nice comeback today. Green flag, here we go. 9 laps to go.
Holy cow.
And Stewart gets way away.
Nobody going to do anything with that.
But I think at the same time, Jimmy Johnson in the 48 spun his tires just a little bit, just enough to let Tony really get away.
Yeah. Nobody's been able to touch Tony Stewart on restarts today.
No, sir. That thing took off like a shot out of a cannon.
23 cars on the lead lap to finish it. It'll be 8 to go when they come around.
Oh, I tell you what, I don't think we'll make it to the end without another caution. No.
Trouble, Kyle Busch, turn 4, around he goes. No caution.
Looks like NASCAR's going to see if he's going to get going. He's got the car moving. He's going to go down pit road. We stay green.
And nobody checked up in the back straightaway. And now,
down, spin in turn 4.
Now the caution waves.
Well, I thought we were going to get, I felt there'd be a caution, but then when I saw the 18 spin down out of harm's way and he got going, thought we might be all right.
Let's have a look at what happened here to Kyle Busch, right in the middle of your right side of your screen. He's underneath Bobby Labonte, and we're told the left rear tire went flat.
Same thing that happened to his brother, Kurt Busch, just a caution before this.
Yep, definitely. Okay, re-rack. Set him up.
Jimmy Johnson, the 48, get another opportunity. The orange cone.
Friend, the orange cone.
Had a tough life.
Who Darrell had a visit with in pre-race.
That
had a tough day. Going to need new shoes there.
He's going to Coney Island. He's done.
Is that where old? That's where old
cones go. They go to Coney Island.
Watch this restart. Tony looks like he was shot out of a cannon right here.
Oh, look at Jimmy, though. See Jimmy fishtail?
Well, yes, but what about Biffle? What about Edwards? It's almost like they were caught napping. And Jimmy's crew chief, Chad Knaus, not thrilled with that one.
Oh, shucks.
They get a second chance now.
Oh, dang.
Guys, people don't understand how hard it is to get 850 horsepower hooked up to the ground, especially when the cars are sitting on a slight bit of banking. You saw when Jimmy tried to go to the gas up on the high side, the car fishtailed. He lost the ground to Tony. Will he be able to correct for it this time? It's very difficult to get all that power to the ground, Darrell.
Well, and that's a great point, Michael, because Tony Stewart's the race leader. He's in control. He only has to act. Every other driver has to react to what Tony does to get going on a restart.
Spinning your tires on a restart, the driver is ultimately responsible. But the crew chief and the spotter have got to stay on that driver all the way to the green to be sure you got those tires clean.
While this was going on, Brad Keselowski in the 2 car, he's back out there, but he's back in 32nd place, 8 laps down in that 2 car. There's Steve Addington, Tony Stewart's new crew chief, left Penske Racing at the end of last year. He left even before Kurt Busch was released. Of course, made the chase, won 2 races last year, made the move over to Stewart-Haas Racing.
And we had some audio from Tony Stewart and his team.
You got to tell NASCAR to make sure that was beside me and not hanging back and rolling the start like he's trying to do. The 2 car and him both have done it.
Didn't work too well, did it?
No, I don't think I'd complain about that restart if I were him. Think about something else.
Eric Almirola gets the free pass, so we will restart with 24 lead lap cars.
I think what Tony is doing, though, he realizes this is another critical moment. He is preparing himself, for don't let these guys do anything, any tricks on this restart.
Yeah, don't you want that driver right alongside you, not back in your blind spot?
Yeah, because he's you're anticipating. You're sitting there, you're listening to the guy beside you's throttle. You're waiting, and you're trying to decide you want to go right when he goes. And that gets to be a game. I've punched the throttle and got off of it before.
Next Sunday, it's all different. Imagine a big cereal bowl and put 43 cars in it and race them around. We'll be at Bristol next week. Bristol, Tennessee, with NASCAR on Fox. Michael?
You see what Tony's doing, Daryl? He's got Jimmy up there way ahead of him. He said, if you want to play that game, I can play that game. They're trying to get in each other's head right now. Tony laying back, Jimmy up ahead of him.
Oh, it's gamesmanship on these restarts, and particularly at the last one. You know, you got to be sure that you got your act together, and if you can mess the other guy up, you want to do that too.
Now, one thing that's different on this restart, the two Roush Fenway drivers are flip-flopped on row 2. Biffle in the 16 outside, Kenseth in the 17 on the inside.
This is kind of like icing a kicker or icing a guy at a three-point line, you know.
Stewart and Johnson front row, Kenseth and Biffle, Edwards and Kane, McMurray, Newman. It'll be 4 laps to go. Green flag.
Perfect time. Jimmy got it pretty close that time.
A lot better restart that time than the time before.
Edwards, bottom of the racetrack. Underneath Kenseth. On the outside, Biffle. Ford's 3 wide for 3rd spot.
Boy, and that's 3 Roush cars right there, all on top of each other. And there goes Kenseth. Kenseth in the wall.
Clear.
Kane high, McMurray low. And Kenseth limps down the back straightaway as we try to stay green.
Boy, watch Johnson on that high side. He's going to get a heck of a run right here. He's looking under Tony. Tony blocks. That high line can really pay off on the corner exit.
3 to go. Kenseth continues back of the pack, but on the lead lap.
It's like Johnson in the 48 gets a better run off the corner, and that lets him get to the next set of corners a little bit quicker than Stewart.
Well, we heard Tony say my car really is awesome getting in the corner. This is the turn 3 and 4 is where you can really make up some ground on the outside.
The big winner in that dust-up was Ryan Newman, who emerged in 4th place behind Greg Biffle. 2 to go.
That 14 car, though, he comes out of the bottom. He comes up out of that hole pretty stout.
Jimmy Johnson trying everything he can. He went all the way to the top of the racetrack that time to try to get the run down the back straightaway.
And you can see Jimmy closes down the straightaway with the momentum of coming off the corner, but he loses too much time. Now he's going to go to the bottom. That's a great move.
But he drove it down into turn 3 that time, Daryl. It just wouldn't quite stick like he needed it to.
Tony's car is just a little bit better. It's just good enough. You're not going to pass him.
White flag. Jimmy Johnson won here on a last lap pass in 2006. But he trails Stewart by 3 car lengths out of 2.
Yeah, that 14 is just too strong up off the bottom of the corner. Jimmy tried everything he could, but 14 is just stout.
Turn 4, final time. Johnson arcs high, brings it down low. The defending Sprint Cup champion Tony Stewart makes it a smoke show in Vegas and wins the Kobalt Tools 400.
There, Ryan Newman in that 39 car. He'd been chipping away all day long to finish 4th.
Boyer in the 15, he ended up 6th. Great run, and Paul Menard stopped and got tires. Restarted 18th, and he finished up in 7th spot. Great run by Menard.
Steve Addington gets his first win with Tony Stewart, that 14 team.
Tony Stewart has now won 6.
Great job, our bud.
6 of the last 13 Sprint Cup races.
So the combination of Stewart, he's continuing to win. Grubb, he goes somewhere else. He continues to win. The dominance continues.
Stewart tuned up for the weekend by doing a little dirt track racing Thursday night. Started 7th. And passed Matt Kenseth as the all-time lap leader at Las Vegas Motor Speedway late in this race.
Well, nobody will have to explain to him this year how they lost this race.
No,
because he drove off and left them.
It's redemption. And this marks the 14th year in a row in which Tony Stewart has won a Sprint Cup race.
It's amazing. Good stuff.
You know, the Roush Fenway teammates worked really well at Daytona, but on this last restart, the 3 Fords got to battling each other. Watch the 16, 17, and 99 here.
Yeah, they're all wadded up here, and it starts when the 99 Carl Edwards goes to the apron. right here, he really puts the 17 in a box. Biffle on the outside. Right here, they're going to be some contact.
But here comes Kane with a run, and McMurray. Ooh.
You know what? That's actually Kane sucked the back of that 17 around. The teammates were really clean.
Kane in that 5, I saw him. He had such a run through the middle of 1 and 2.
Yeah, he just went outside there and sucked the 17 right around, there.
He got that little bump from Matt. He hit the wall too.
Yeah.
But Kane managed to make it around and finish 19th.
Oh, by the way, Tony's still doing burnouts. He's going all around the place.
Yeah, Matt Kenseth ended up finishing 22nd in his 17 car.
Tony is now doing what Alan Kulwicki invented, the self-described Polish victory lap. Driver's side to the crowd and salute the fans.
Both Stewart-Haas cars in the top 5, guys.
On a day we were all springing forward, 40-year-old Tony Stewart turns back the hands of time and into victory lane, the earliest he's won a race. This is the 3rd race of the season. What does that say? Usually a strong finisher at the end of the year. Thumbs up for Tony Stewart, who led the most laps and outdueled Jimmy Johnson, held him off at the end. A battle between two of the greatest drivers in NASCAR history. A couple of Hall of Famers when their time comes. And Tony in victory lane. Let's go down there with Matt Yoakum.
And Tony Stewart rolls into victory lane for the first time in his career at Las Vegas. Second time he's ever won in the month of May. And what a way he did it in dramatic fashion. Great job, though. He says, I'm coming, I'm coming. The guys in the back ready to start celebrating. And what way to win than in dramatic fashion like he did at Las Vegas. And no place ever owes a driver anything, but Tony, after the domination and disappointment a year ago, and especially that guy coming on board, what's it mean to finally win at Las Vegas?
Oh, man. Especially the way we lost it last year. I mean, we had a dominant car last year, and I don't know that we had the dominant car today, but, you know, we just were so strong on restarts. Just Mobile One, Office Depot, Chevrolet, you know, Sprint, all of our fans, just, you know, Quicken Loans, U.S. Army, just everybody, you know, GoDaddy, everybody that's a part of Stewart-Haas Racing, and especially the Hendrick engine department, chassis department. That was the whole key to the restarts today.
You always like putting a check mark next to a place. Dominant crew chief on the box. The only thing more dominant, though, was that move going down into turn 1 on the restart. Did that even impress you?
I had to go, man. I mean, I knew that Matt had 4 tires, and, you know, Greg and those guys had better tires than we did, so I knew as long as we could get the clean air, we could at least hold them off for a little bit. I just didn't know we were going to be able to hold them off the whole run.
All right, the 14, victory lane finally in Las Vegas. Dick Berggren?
Jimmy Johnson, the look on your face said it all. Second ain't no good.
No, but with everything we went through this weekend, we'll take it. But, man, I want to win. We're close. I think we had maybe a little bit more speed, but Tony could really get away on those restarts up through the gears a lot better than I could. So I've got to look into that and see if it was something I was doing wrong or something else going on there. But solid performance. I've got to stop and make mention of what Lowe's is doing with the disaster relief fund and the fact that we finished so well. They're going to put up a bunch of money for all the tornado victims. Myself and Hendrick Motorsports going to match that as well. So great day in a lot of ways. I wish we could have this Kobalt Chevrolet over in Victory Lane, but just didn't happen. I want to say hi to my wife and daughter at home, and see you guys soon.
Congratulations on a fine run. Thank you.
Thanks, Jimmy and Dick, with Michael Waltrip here in the Hollywood Hotel. Well, redemption in Las Vegas. That doesn't happen for a lot of people. For Tony Stewart, he was the king of the restarts today. But how about that battle towards the end? I mean, Jimmy was giving it all he had. Tony held on.
That's 2 world-class drivers on the gas. They wanted that victory so bad. Tony Stewart held off a determined Jimmy Johnson. My heart was beating 100 miles an hour, Chris, because I know how bad they wanted to win, and I know that there isn't any better drivers in NASCAR than those 2 right now.
8 championships between them. They'll be in the mix again. In the mix towards the end of the race, as we illustrated, was the Jack Roush Ford drivers colliding. And let's go now to Krista, who is standing by with 2 of those.
Yeah, Chris, standing between teammates Carl Edwards and Greg Biffle. Tell me about those last laps. Obviously battling teammates, and there was another Roush Fenway car in the mix too, and we're going to show it to you right now.
Yeah, I just got down in there, and I was on the top, and Carl was digging on the bottom. I could see him right up on my quarter panel. I was just easing up the track a little bit, giving him room, and I got a pretty good run off the corner, and I don't know what happened behind me, so it was pretty bad behind me. I don't know exactly what happened back there.
Okay, not the win, but you are the points leader. Let's get the take from your teammate, Carl Edwards. What happened?
Well, Matt spun his tires just a little bit on the restart, and I went down on the apron. He gave me a ton of room, and we got all bunched up over there. But I got to thank Aflac for being on board. Fastenal, Ford, Subway, Kellogg's, UPS, and Best Buy. And we were not that good at the beginning of the race. It was fun to battle all day, fun to race at this place. It's slick, it's fun, and I'm glad we could at least see the winner up there. That was a good time.
Strong day for Roush Fenway. Steve?
Well, Matt Kenseth, tell us what happened on the backstretch on that last restart.
I honestly don't really know. I mean, Carl just laid back and, got by me 3 wide, and then just didn't seem like there's a lot of room getting into one. And I did get clear behind him, and I just stopped in the middle of the corner. And I don't really know what happened. I got into him a little bit, and then I don't know if I got there, pulled off my right side, or really honestly what happened. So thought I got a good start. I was right with Tony. I didn't lay back on Tony, and, they always do that then. It's just, you got to be ready for that. So I don't really know what I did up there.
Thank you, Matt.
Yep.
Disappointing day for Matt Kenseth, of course, the winner of the first race of the year at the Daytona 500, and Denny Hamlin, who won last week.
Can you imagine Matt Kenseth? He felt that victory. He was right where he needed to be, and then just have it taken away from him off turn 2. Very frustrating for that young man.
Well, we say the teammate thing is overrated. We saw it in that case. Let's get some final thoughts from Darrell, Larry, and Mike.
Gene Haas had never won a Sprint Cup race. He took half his chips, half his race team, pushed it across the table to Tony Stewart, said, come with me. You own half the race team. You lead this team. They just got their 14th Sprint Cup victory. They have a championship, and Ryan Newman came through that Roush Fenway battle at the end to finish 4th. Wow, what a roll they're on.
And really and truly, I mean, great leaders are always second guessed. Tony Stewart is a great leader. I mean, he's great at everything he does. Every business he gets involved in, he leads it to success. That change he made, what a gamble. Let go Darian Grubb, bring in Steve Addington. But it paid off.
Yes, it did.
And I tell you, you got to tip your hat to Jimmy Johnson and his race team. When you look at the controversy they've been living with for the last 2 weeks with this penalty, the appeal be held on Tuesday. They had a top 5 finish last week at Phoenix. They go to a backup car after a practice crash, go up there and lead laps and finish second. That means that team and Jimmy Johnson, they kept their game face on, and they kept their focus during this 400-miler today.
And Chris, add to that, fellas like Jamie McMurray, Paul Menard, and Martin Truex were in the mix all day. Ran hard, ended up with some decent finishes.
Thanks, Mike, Darrell, and Larry. We look forward to next week in Bristol. Let's check the unofficial results as we roll in here. And you talk about being in Vegas, Michael. Clint Boyer, Michael Waltrip Racing, gambling with a pretty good finish.
Yeah, great call by Brian Patty. They stayed out, got some track position, was able to hang on to a top 10 finish. Proud of those guys. Trevor Bayne back in the top 10. It's good to see Trevor run well, and there's Dale Jr. back in the 10th spot.
Yeah, we're going to hear from Dale Earnhardt Jr. here in just a couple of moments. Jeff Gordon not near the front. Kevin Harvick, your odds. You said, hey, he's my guy today. I would go with him, an 11th place finish.
Yeah, it was a decent day for Kevin. Didn't have exactly all I thought he would have. Casey Kane, the same situation. Started on the pole, never really challenged. And point leader coming in, Denny Hamlin all the way back in 20th spot.
Kyle Busch, we documented his rough day along with Kurt Busch. The guys from Vegas struggling. Kyle, remember, had to go to a backup car, a former winner here as we round out the field. A.J. Allmendinger, all that potential continuing, though, to disappoint where he's finishing. And Brad Keselowski gambled, struggled. A 19-year-old Timmy Hill in his very first Sprint Cup race. And we'll continue live from Las Vegas. We'll hear from Dale Earnhardt Jr. We'll also check the points 3 races through the NASCAR Sprint Cup season with Tony Stewart pulling into victory lane. Live here in Las Vegas, NASCAR's defending champion, the 3-time champ, holding up one of the Kobalt Tools from his Kobalt Tools 400 victory as we check the Sprint Cup point standings 3 races through. Greg Biffle is your leader now for the first time since 2005 that he is leading the points championship. He actually has had 3 third-place finishes. Maybe we should go over the roulette table and put something down on 3.
I like your thinking, but what about Tony Stewart? Already won. He's never been this hot this early in the season. The other guys might ought to watch out.
And Dale Earnhardt Jr. 4th in points currently. Let's check in with him. He's with Steve Burns.
Dale Earnhardt Jr., you led a lot of laps out front. How would you describe your afternoon?
Well, when we were fast leading the race, the car was really tight.
And I knew by the end of the race, especially with all them cautions we had at the end, that this was going to be really tight racetrack, and we needed to free the car up. And I didn't give Steve enough information throughout the day to really give him the idea of how tight the car was. And track sort of went past us as far as our handling goes. So we didn't, I didn't keep up with the track enough, and it cost us a handful of spots there at the end of the race. And the car's just really, really tight. We should have worked on it during the day, and I should have gave Steve a little more heads up on what was happening. And but we had a good weekend. National Guard Diet Mountain Dew Chevy was fast all weekend, and we keep doing that every week. We're gonna be right there. So we'll just keep trying.
See you at Bristol.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Led more laps today than all of last season. Junior, who's a big Redskins fan. Tony Stewart's a big Colts fan and said he was crushed when they had to release Peyton Manning in Indianapolis. But Junior, and you tweeted him when we heard about the big Redskin trade moving up to number 2 in the upcoming April draft to go after a quarterback in Washington.
Yeah, I asked him, did they give up too much for that draft pick? He said, what would you give up for a dynasty? What if this is something special for our team? And he said, it's fun to be a Redskins fan as we look forward to the next year's season. And I can relate to that. We got Cam Newton down in Charlotte, and there's some excitement in Charlotte about that quarterback.
And Dynasty, Tony Stewart, Jimmy Johnson knows something about that. What do you think as we head to Bristol based on what we've seen in the first 3 races?
Like I said, the end of the race was everything I wanted to see. We had 2 of our best slugging it out. Jimmy Johnson wanted that win so bad. You saw him drive up on the outside of Tony Stewart with a couple to go. Just couldn't pull it off. Tony put him away. But that was all we got right there in NASCAR. 2 of our best going wide open for the checkers.
And, of course, in Bristol, Tennessee, that's where it's more about the driver, less about the car. We look forward to that next Sunday and hope you'll be with us. Lowe's wants to thank everyone who contributed to Racing for Relief during today's Kobalt Tools 400. In addition to your contributions to the Red Cross, Lowe's will donate the matching amount of Jimmy Johnson's winnings from the race today to provide disaster relief with a minimum donation of $100,000. Coming up tonight on Fox, The Simpsons, Family Guy, and our favorite at 9:30, American Dad. We talked about Bristol, Tennessee, some of the great racing, short track racing. Kyle Busch, 4 of the last 6 races have been won by him at that locale. And then after that, it's Fontana, California, and Martinsville, Virginia. 3 straight races on Fox without interruption. If you want more racing coverage for here and all the time, check out Speed and currently switch over to Victory Lane if you want to get a recap of what happened here in Tony Stewart's exciting victory after letting one slip away last year. He was not about to let it happen this time. For Darrell, Larry, and Mike, Krista, Steve, Dick, Matt, Jeff, and Michael, this has been a Barry Landis production, directed by Artie Kempner. I'm Chris Myers. We always like having you a part of NASCAR on Fox. We hope you'll tune in next Sunday from Bristol, Tennessee, and we thank you for watching and hope you enjoyed the Tony Stewart win in Las Vegas. And thanks for being there.